and in turn fell for my domineering CEO fiancé and publicly challenged me at the corporate anniversary gala in front of all employees. Miss Zhong, I intend to compete with you fairly for Mr. Zhou Songjin's affection. The audience erupted in murmurs, while my fiancé Zhou Songjin's eyes flickered with appreciation. In my past life, I urged her not to be a homewrecker, yet she resorted to threatening suicide to force my hand. Miss Zhong, aside from your privileged family background, what else makes you worthy of President Zhou? My love for him was never about money, even being the other woman, it's still true love. Zhou Songjin then pointed at my nose and roared, there's nothing wrong with her loving someone, don't taint pure love with your filthy mindset. Just like that, the despicable couple teamed up and pushed me off the rooftop. After I died, the intern became an inspirational influencer by playing the victim. She may be gone, but the pain she caused me remains. Still, I'll persevere and live even stronger. In their quest for revenge, my parents and my fiancé's family ended up destroying each other. When I opened my eyes again, I had traveled back to the day the intern declared she would compete with me fairly. When I was reborn, Shen Qianli was standing on stage declaring war against me. Miss Zhong, I intend to compete with you fairly for Mr. Zhou Songjin's affections. Her knuckles were white from gripping the microphone, her voice trembling with desperate resolve, yet it carried with startling clarity to every corner of the anniversary celebration venue. All eyes were fixed on the girl on stage, dressed in an ill-fitting, cheap suit, yet holding her head high. Oh my God, is she insane? How dare an intern compete with Miss Zhong for someone? Mr. Zhou's fiancé is Zhong Lingjia. Who does she think she is? But, how bold. Throwing caution to the wind for love, she's kind of like a drama heroine. The buzzing whispers swarmed around my ears like flies. I could feel the man beside me instantly tense up, not anger, but excitement. I tilted my head slightly and looked at my fiancé, Zhou Songjin. Chapter 1. In the depths of his eyes, that fleeting glimpse he hadn't managed to conceal was unmistakably admiration. He looked at Shen Qianli as if appreciating a rule-breaking, vibrant work of art. How familiar this scene felt, in my past life. It was at this very moment that my life was completely torn apart. What did I say back then? Oh, I said to Shen Qianli, Miss Shen, you're still young, don't go down the wrong path. Knowingly being the other woman is nothing to be proud of. I tried to maintain my composure as a lady from a good family and reason with her. And what did I get in return? Her hysterical rants about true love knows no wrong. Zhou Songjin accusing me of having a filthy mind. Her threatening to jump off the rooftop to force my hand. And ultimately, the chilling sensation of her pushing me over the edge to my death. It's the disgusting sight of her using the victim persona to become an internet celebrity after my death, putting on a pitiful act in front of the camera and saying, even though she's dead, the harm she caused me won't just disappear. It's the tragic outcome of my parents exhausting everything to seek justice for me. Only for both our family and the Zhou family to meet their ruin in the end. A bone-deep hatred, like venomous vines, instantly coiled around my heart, nearly suffocating me. But this time, I won't make the same mistake again. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the beginning of hell. The heavens had given me a second chance. Good, very good, this time. I'll watch as you two lovebirds turn your Love Actually anthem into a funeral dirge of utter ruin. The commotion in the audience continued unabated. All eyes swept back and forth between the three of us like searchlights. Emboldened by Zhou Songjin's appreciative glance, Shen Qianli straightened her posture with an almost martyr-like pride and repeated her words, her tone now more resolute. Miss Zhong, aside from your privileged family background, what exactly makes you worthy of President Zhou? I never loved him for his money. Even if they call me a homewrecker, this is real love. Her words sparked another wave of murmurs through the crowd. Wow, she's got some nerve saying that. Not for the money. Who's she kidding? She knows exactly how many billions Mr. Zhou is worth. But, she sounded so genuine. Maybe it really is love. Zhou Songjin's brow furrowed slightly, but his displeasure wasn't directed at Shen Qianli's shocking statement. It was aimed at me, carrying a subtle urgency and a warning. He was warning me not to embarrass Shen Qianli in public. Ha! In my past life, it was precisely that look in his eyes that wounded me, causing me to lose my composure. Now, I sneered inwardly, yet my face blossomed into an impeccable smile, one tinged with tolerance and even pity. I took a graceful step forward and elegantly retrieved another microphone from the frozen hand of the nearby host. Every movement was measured and deliberate. A collective breath was held in the room. Even Zhou Songjin seemed taken aback by my reaction. My gaze settled on Shen Qianli. Calm and steady, Through the microphone, my voice carried clearly, tinged with just the right note of weariness and relief. Miss Shen, I paused deliberately, successfully capturing the entire room's attention. You're absolutely right, love truly shouldn't be constrained by social status or position. Shen Qianli froze, a flicker of astonishment flashing in her eyes. Zhou Songjin also froze, his gaze turning scrutinizing as he looked at me. I turned slightly to face the sea of people in the audience, raising my voice to make sure every single person could hear. Since you and Songjin are true love, when I uttered the words true love, my tone was as light as a feather, yet dripping with endless sarcasm. Then I'm willing to step down. The room fell so silent you could hear a pin drop. I could even hear someone gasp sharply. I turned my head and truly looked at Zhou Songjin's face for the first time. The admiration that had been there was gone, replaced by stunned disbelief and a hint of offended anger. He seemed unable to accept that I would so easily give up on him and relinquish the position of Mrs. Zhou. Meeting his complicated gaze, I enunciated each word clearly and deliberately. I, Zhong Lingjia, hereby announce the termination of my engagement to Mr. Zhou Songjin. I step aside for you too. A faint smile touched the corners of my lips. May you have a long and happy marriage. Boom, the audience went wild, breaking off the engagement. Miss Zhong actually called it off. Holy crap, what kind of plot twist is this? Mr. Zhou got dumped. Miss Zhong is absolutely badass. Good riddance to that scumbag and his side piece. But, Mr. Zhou, someone glanced at Zhou Songjin with a complicated expression. Zhou Songjin's face instantly darkened, looking as if it could drip with water. The moment I uttered the words break off the engagement, he was used to being in control of everything, used to me revolving around him. When had he ever suffered such a public humiliation, especially since this humiliation came from me, someone he had always believed loved him deeply and would never leave him? Shen Qianli was completely bewildered. None of the drama she had anticipated, the screaming matches, hysterical sobbing, or bitter accusations, ever materialized. Instead of giving her a hard time, I simply ceded my position to her. Her entire tragic narrative of defying authority to fight for true love instantly lost its foundation. She was like a clown who had overexerted herself, throwing a punch only to hit cotton, her face a mask of bewilderment and helplessness. No, that's not how it is. She instinctively looked to Zhou Songjin, seeking support, but Zhou Songjin didn't even glance at her. His gaze was locked intensely on me, burning with the fury and confusion of betrayal. The host stood by, sweating bullets, completely at a loss for how to regain control of the situation. I gracefully handed the microphone back to him, as if I had just announced an ordinary decision rather than dropped a bombshell that shook the entire room. I lifted the hem of my dress, ready to step off the stage. As I passed by Shen Qianli, my steps faltered slightly, in a voice only the two of us could hear. I spoke softly, with a tone carrying a faint trace of pity. Congratulations, Miss Shen, you finally got what you wanted. Trash. With that, I ignored her instantly flushed face and Zhou Songjin's furious glare, walking with composed steps through the stunned, sympathetic, and curious gazes. I strode straight off the stage. The sharp, steady click of high heels echoed against the floor. Each step felt like treading on the bones of the past, marching toward rebirth. I had just settled into my original seat at the main table, not even having a moment to sip some water and calm my turbulent emotions, when a waft of fragrant perfume drifted over from beside me. To my surprise, Shen Qianli had followed me over. The pitiful, delicate expression she had been wearing was gone, replaced by the triumphant of a victor. Zhou Songjin didn't follow. He remained on the stage, seemingly surrounded by several company executives discussing something. His expression still grim. Miss Zhong, Shen Qianli's voice carried a deliberately hushed sharpness. Thank you for yielding him to me. She emphasized the word yielding with particular force. But you're mistaken. She leaned in slightly, speaking in a volume only I could hear, enunciating each word deliberately. You're utterly unworthy of the depth of his soul. My hand holding the cup stilled as I looked up at her. Depth of soul. What kind of soul depth could Zhou Songjin, that profit-obsessed, self-serving businessman, possibly have? Depth in scheming against others, or depth in manipulative tactics? I almost burst out laughing. In my past life, I was utterly disgusted by their nonsense about soul resonance and love conquers all. Hearing it again in this lifetime, it just sounds absurd and ridiculous. Looking at her face, slightly flushed with excitement and smugness, I calmly said, "Oh, really? Well then. May you two be stuck with each other forever." don't you dare come out and cause trouble for others. Shen Qianli was taken aback by my unexpected response, as if she hadn't anticipated I could be so crude. She took a deep breath, still wanting to say something. Just then, Zhou Songjin finally broke free from the entanglement and strode over with a dark expression. His gaze lingered on my face for a moment, carrying a complex scrutiny, then shifted to Shen Qianli. His brow furrowing almost imperceptibly. Songjin, Shen Qianli instantly changed her expression, putting on a facade of being wronged yet feigning strength, calling out to him in a fragile voice. Zhou Songjin ignored her and instead looked at me, his voice low and suppressing anger. Lingjia, must you be like this, in front of so many people, making me lose face? I deliberately set down the water glass and raised my eyes to meet his gaze. There was no trace of the former adoration or warmth in my eyes, only a chilling detachment. Mr. Zhou, I had changed how I addressed him. Keep your mistress away from me. I find it disgusting. Zhou Songjin's face instantly turned ashen. Shen Qianli, bristling like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, shrilled, Zhong Lingjia, who are you calling a homewrecker? Songjin and I are truly in love. Oh, I raised an eyebrow, my gaze shifting between Zhou Songjin and Shen Qianli. So, President Zhou, during the term of our engagement, you and this truly beloved Miss Shen were already in a relationship. Did you sleep together? My voice was neither loud nor soft, but it carried clearly to the eavesdroppers around us. The room fell silent instantly. Countless stares pierced through Zhou Songjin and Shen Qianli like needles. A vein throbbed at Zhou Songjin's temple. He never imagined that I, who always valued propriety and spoke with restraint, would ask such a blunt, almost rude question in public. Shen Qianli's face flushed, then paled. You're talking nonsense, she retorted, her bluster belying her fear. Zhou Songjin took a deep breath, trying to regain control of the situation and his usual composure. Lingjia, I know you're upset, but Qianli is just naive and impulsive. There's nothing wrong with her having feelings for someone. Don't taint it with your filthy thoughts. Taint what? I cut him off, rising to my feet to meet his gaze. Though I fell slightly short in height, I refused to be outmatched in presence. Taint your pure love. I finished the sentence for him, the very words that had pierced my heart like a dagger in what felt like a past life. I laughed, a cold, mocking laugh. Zhou Songjin, spare me your nauseating excuses. The engagement is off. From now on, you and your innocently impulsive true love have nothing more to do with me. Zhong Lingjia, may the bitch and the dog live happily ever after. With that, I ignored their kaleidoscope of expressions, picked up my clutch, turned around, and strode out of that disgusting place with my head held high, through the dead silence and countless gazes filled with shock, admiration, and even a hint of schadenfreude. Behind me, I could faintly hear Zhou Songjin's suppressed growl and Shen Qianli's tearful excuses. Chapter 2, almost the moment I stepped out of the anniversary gala. Videos and photos from every angle began spreading like wildfire across the internet. Hashtag #ZhouCEO_public rejection hashtag interns love declaration hashtag #ZhongLingjia_steps down hashtag. Several hashtags exploded onto the trending charts with meteoric popularity, each marked by a blazing red, explosive icon. The finance sections are analyzing the potential impact of this divorce on Zhou Corporation's stock price and the business alliance between the Zhong and Zhou families. The entertainment media, like sharks that have caught the scent of blood, are digging into every last detail of this wealthy love triangle. That short clip of Shen Qianli grabbing the microphone, set to various dramatic background scores, is spreading like wildfire across short video platforms. The comment section has turned into a full-on catfight. Damn, this in turn is fearless, she's directly confronting the main wife. What main wife? Didn't you hear Miss Zhong called off the engagement? She's the one who got cheated on. Who knows if it was just a business marriage with no real feelings. What's wrong with the intern girl bravely pursuing love? Exactly, look at how she gazes at Mr. Zhou. Her eyes are filled with so much love and admiration. She seems way more genuine than that aloof Miss Zhong. Just an outsider's perspective, but this girl is pretty brave. She's throwing caution to the wind for love, like something straight out of a romantic drama. Am I the only one who noticed the way Mr. Zhou looks at the intern? His eyes practically linger on her. He clearly admires her. I feel bad for Miss Zhong. She comes from a good family. She's beautiful. How could she get sidelined by someone like that? Feeling jealous up there. Their love conquers all. I stared at the scrolling comments on my phone screen, feeling completely unfazed. and even a little amused, in my past life. It was these misguided public opinions and the carefully crafted illusion of true love by Shin Qianli that pushed me step by step into retreat, until I finally fell into the abyss. This time around, I'm going to see just how long this true love act can last. Shin Qianli moved faster than I had anticipated. Within 24 hours of the buzz taking off, she had registered accounts across all major social media platforms under the unified username Brave Little Pair Chasing Love. Her profile picture was a poignant side profile shot, head tilted at a 45-degree angle, gazing skyward with glistening eyes, yet managing a brave smile, radiating a profound sense of untold stories. Her first short video was filmed in the modest, sparsely furnished studio apartment she rented. The peeling wall in the background perfectly complemented her faded, worn-out t-shirt. She appeared barefaced with her hair loosely falling around her shoulders, tears welling up in her eyes before she could even speak. After choking up for a good 10 seconds, she finally spoke in a voice thick with emotion. I know many people are cursing me, calling me shameless, saying I'm a homewrecker. She sniffled hard, forcing a brave smile, but tears still rolled down at just the right moment. I don't blame anyone, because Song Jin is just too outstanding. Miss Zhong is wonderful too. It's me who isn't good enough. She paused, as if gathering immense courage, looked straight into the camera, her eyes filled with that stubborn defiance of someone condemned by all yet refusing to yield. But is it really wrong to love someone? I love Zhou Songjin for who he is, not his wealth or status. Even if he had nothing, I'd still love him. This relationship, in my heart, is pure and precious. I won't let anyone tarnish it, not even myself. The video cut off abruptly at this point. There was a 3-second pause, showing her tearful, defiant face frozen in a close-up. This video exploded across the internet like a depth charge. I'm crying. That poor girl, she loved so humbly. Why attack a girl brave enough to chase love? I hereby declare myself Team Shaoli from today. Brave Shaoli fears no hardship. She actually said she'd love CEO Zhou even if he lost everything. Yeah, right. Can't wait to see reality prove her wrong. Get lost, you jealous troll. Our Shaoli is a pure, kind-hearted soul. Just a bystander here. But I'm becoming a fan. It's rare to find such a genuine girl these days. The comment section was quickly flooded with messages of sympathy, support, and encouragement. The few skeptical comments that popped up were swiftly shouted down into silence. Her follower count skyrocketed, breaking the 1 million mark in just a few hours. What really caught everyone's attention was that Zhou Songjin's account actually liked the video, though there was no comment. That like was undoubtedly the biggest show of support and validation for Shin Qianli, essentially confirming their special relationship to the entire internet. It felt like a sharp, stinging slap across the face to me. His ex-fiancé, Miss, you have to see this. It's absolutely infuriating. Butler Lin held the tablet, his hands trembling with anger. On the screen was Shin Qianli's newly launched live stream. The setting appeared to have shifted to one of Zhou Songjin's seldom used apartments, decorated in a stark, modern style, yet, a cheap plush toy, completely out of character for her, was deliberately placed in the corner, fabricating the illusion of a cold-hearted CEO changing for me. She was showing off a limited edition crocodile leather handbag, her face glowing with a blissful flush. This bag actually has a little story, she said softly, with a hint of shyness. Songjin ordered it for someone before, but he said that person's vibe just couldn't do justice to the bag's essence. She paused meaningfully, and the live chat immediately exploded with comments like, "The ex doesn't deserve it. Shaoli, you carry it so well. Mr. Zhou is so doting." Smiling contentedly, she cradled the bag in her arms as if it were a priceless treasure. Songjin said it's finally found its true owner now. I stared at the artificial face on the screen and the bag I instantly recognized. The one Zhou Songjin had originally intended as my birthday gift. While bitter laughter echoed in my heart. The real owner, how dare you claim ownership of stolen goods? As the live stream camera panned, Shin Qianli accidentally swept past the display shelf in the living room. The shelf used to hold a photo of me and Zhou Songjin from a charity gala. Now, that photo frame is gone. In its place stands one of her handmade pottery pieces, uniquely hideous in its own special way. Pretending to adjust her hair, she accidentally brushed her arm against an inconspicuous little trinket at the edge of the shelf. That's a custom perfume bottle I left there. Clatter. The perfume bottle hit the carpet with a dull thud. Shin Qianli gasped, quickly picking it up. She stuck her tongue out at the camera with an innocent look of chagrin. Oops, sorry. I knocked over something Miss Zhong left behind. She held the perfume bottle, turning it over in her hands, her tone casual yet laced with a hint of barely concealed disdain. What's past is past, we've got to look forward, right, everyone? The comments flooded in again. Shaoli is right, you have to let go of the wrong ones to meet the right one, Mr. Zhou only has eyes for you now. I turned off the tablet, unable to stand the sight of her disgusting face any longer. Uncle Lin fumed beside me. Miss, how dare she slander you so blatantly and use your past with Mr. Zhou, no, with Zhou Songjin, for publicity, are we just going to stand by and watch? I gazed out at the deep night, my fingertip tracing a slow path across the cold window pane. Just watch. A smirk tugged at my lips. Of course not. I'm not just going to watch, I'm going to stir the pot. I pulled out my phone and deftly registered a brand new alt account with the username Jinli's One True Love, then I clicked into Shen Qianli's live stream. Shen Qianli's live stream had reached its climax. She began to vividly recount how she won over Zhou Songjin with her sincerity and talent. Back then, I was just an inconspicuous intern, responsible for delivering documents to Songjin. Once, I overheard him worrying about cultural differences in an overseas project. So I tidied up the relevant research report I had done during university and quietly placed it on his desk. Her cheeks flushed crimson, her gaze dreamy and distant, lost in the romantic fantasy she'd woven for herself. I never imagined he'd actually read it, but the next day, he called me into his office and seriously discussed the points in my report. He said my ideas were unique and had given him a lot of inspiration. The comment section flooded with "Genius girl, so that's how CEO Zhou was drawn to your talent. Now that's what I call soulmates." I let out a derisive snort. Shen Qianli graduated from a third-rate university with some vague art degree. I've seen that so-called research paper of hers in my past life. It was just a patchwork of shallow online sources, laughably amateur. Zhou Songjin's casual remark about her work being thoughtful was twisted by her into some profound soul connection. Absolutely ridiculous. My fingers flew across the screen. Jinli True Love Forever sent a Rocket X1. Awesome special effects instantly took over the entire screen. Shen Qianli was in the middle of her passionate storytelling when she got interrupted. She froze for a second, clearly not expecting someone to send her such an expensive gift. She looked at my ID, read it out loud, her face lighting up with surprise and emotion. Thank you, Jinli True Love Forever for the rocket. Thank you for supporting us." I kept clicking with a blank expression. Jinli's True Love is unbeatable, send a Rocket X1. Jinli's True Love is unbeatable, send a Rocket X1. The screen was flooded with a barrage of rocket animations. The livestream's popularity instantly skyrocketed to its peak. The comment section was going wild. Holy crap, this guy's loaded. Who's this guardian angel? Showing our little Lee so much love. The username says it all. Jinli couple is totally real. Shen Qianli's face flushed with excitement as she repeatedly thanked me, gazing at my username like I was her savior. I stopped sending gifts and typed in the chat with feverish intensity. Jinli love is invincible. Sis and President Zhou are literally made for each other. Ship them forever. They must be locked in. Wishing you all the best. All those haters are just jealous. My comment immediately drew a flood of agreement from CP fans. Absolutely, lock them in for good. Best wishes. The big spender is right. The Jinli CP is the sweetest couple ever. Jealousy can truly twist a person beyond recognition. Shen Qianli watched the scrolling comments, her smile growing ever more radiant and self-assured. She nodded firmly at the camera, as if taking a solemn vow. Thank you, everyone. I will do my best. I will prove through my actions that the bond between Songjin and me can withstand any trial. Watching her so intoxicated by vanity and illusion, I curled my lips in a cold smirk. Excellent. That's exactly the effect I was going for. Shen Qianli, enjoy this fleeting prosperity while it lasts. The higher you climb, the more eyes are on you, and the harder and more painful your fall will be. I'm building you up just to watch you fall harder. Shortly after the livestream ended, Shen Qianli posted another update. It was a set of 9 photos arranged in a grid. The post featured a photo of her with the limited edition bag, staged shots of her playing the dutiful homemaker by arranging flowers and cooking in Zhou Songjin's apartment, though the meal looked decidedly unappetizing, and a profile shot of her diligently working with a few documents spread out before her. God only knows how an intern got access to confidential files. Caption: meeting you made me realize how beautiful life can be. Grateful for everything. And thank you to all of you who always support me. Let's walk the future path together. Red heart at Zhou Songjin didn't like the post this time, but he didn't deny or clarify anything either, in the eyes of netizens and fans. This ambiguous attitude is no different from silent approval and indulgence. The Jinli CP fan community exploded overnight, with fans generating staggering levels of engagement. Endless posts dissecting their every interaction and analyzing their chemistry have spun Shen Qianli and Zhou Songjin into a modern fairy tale, a couple defying social barriers in pursuit of true love. Meanwhile, I, the ex-fiancé, have been cast as the inconvenient obstacle, the bitter background character who stands in the way of their destined romance. On the rare occasion when my supporters or sympathetic bystanders speak up in my defense, they're immediately branded as jealous, the vindictive female rival, or deserving of being dumped, and swarmed by the CP fans. Old Lin watched the online trends with deep concern. Miss, if this continues, your reputation. I set down the financial report and rubbed my temples. Old Lin, reputation can be a burden at times, I said calmly. Sometimes, you need to let it go temporarily to see things more clearly, and to let those who should reveal themselves do so. I opened my phone and looked coldly at the hundreds of thousands of blessings and praises under Shen Qianli's latest post. Let her make a scene, let her stir up publicity, let her build her image as courageous in love, pure and kind-hearted, and exceptionally talented to her heart's content. The more perfect and deeply ingrained the image she's crafting now, the more severe the backlash will be when the truth comes out. As for me, all I needed was to wait patiently and give a gentle nudge at the right moment. Just then, my phone screen lit up with a push notification. Zhou Songjin, president of Zhou Group, confirmed to attend the International Business Forum next week with his assistant, Shen Qianli. International Business Forum. That's a high-profile event attended by numerous business elites and media figures. Zhou Songjin actually wants to bring Shen Qianli along. Has he truly lost his mind over so-called true love, or does he think bringing this traffic magnet will bring him some extra benefits? Or perhaps he wants to prove to everyone, including me, that he made the right choice, whatever he's thinking. Chapter 3. The International Business Forum was held in the grand ballroom of the city's most prestigious downtown hotel. Crystal chandeliers cast a brilliant glow over the scene of elegant attire and clinking glasses. The air was thick with the scent of money, power, and expensive perfume. The attendees were all influential figures in the business world, captains of major corporations, heads of top investment banks, and powerful political figures. This was a true Vanity Fair, where every casual greeting could conceal billion-dollar deals, and every smile was meticulously calculated. I wore an exquisitely tailored black velvet haute couture gown, simple in design yet commanding in presence, accessorized only with a strand of high-quality pearls for an elegant and appropriate look. As a representative of Zhongshe Group and one of the key partners of this forum, I drew considerable attention the moment I entered. There were looks of admiration, scrutiny, and curiosity about the recent broken engagement scandal I had been involved in. I calmly accepted all the attention, greeting familiar elders and business partners with ease, my demeanor and conversation impeccable. Lingjia, you've been working hard lately, said a family friend of my father's, patting my shoulder with a tone of concern and a hint of barely perceptible scrutiny. He had clearly heard about Zhou Songjin and that in turn. I smiled faintly, my tone calm yet resolute. Uncle Li, don't worry, Zhong Corporation is doing well, and so am I. As we were talking, a faint stir came from the entrance. I didn't need to turn around to know who had arrived. Zhou Songjin stood tall and handsome as ever, dressed in an Armani haute couture suit, but trailing closely beside him was a figure who seemed completely out of place, Shen Qianli. She had clearly put considerable effort into her appearance, wearing a white lace dress from some affordable luxury brand. The dress had multiple layers of ruffles, exuding a cheap, ethereal vibe that came across as overly fussy and deliberate for such an occasion. Her face was adorned with meticulous makeup, yet her eyes betrayed an unmistakable nervousness and excitement. She followed closely behind Zhou Songjin, as if afraid of losing sight of him, yet also eager to showcase her current role to everyone. Zhou Songjin's companion, or rather, his assistant. Their appearance was undoubtedly like tossing another stone into the already delicate court of public opinion. The surrounding gazes instantly grew complex. Some looked on with schadenfreude, some with disdain, and a few with sympathy directed at me. Zhou Songjin seemed to relish the spotlight, greeting several acquaintances with effortless composure as if bringing Shen Qianli to such events was the most natural thing in the world. Meanwhile, Shen Qianli straightened her posture, trying to appear more worthy of standing beside Zhou Songjin, yet her flickering gaze and slightly trembling fingers betrayed her lack of confidence. I averted my gaze and resumed my conversation with Uncle Li, treating the two of them as nothing more than insignificant background scenery. However, the tree may crave calm, but the wind will never cease. Shen Qianli's gaze clung to me like sticky spider silk, never letting go. It was a mix of jealousy, resentment, and a hint of eager provocation. She probably thought that in this kind of high-end setting, if she could embarrass me, it would completely prove she's better than me and that Zhou Songjin's choice of her was absolutely right. Pathetic. Holding a glass of champagne, I was about to approach another business partner when I caught, from the corner of my eye, Shen Qianli moving toward me with a glass of red wine. Feigning nonchalance, Zhou Songjin was conversing with a banker nearby, seemingly oblivious to her subtle maneuver. Here it comes, I smirked inwardly without breaking stride. Just as predicted, the moment we were about to cross paths, Shen Qianli deliberately stumbled with an exaggerated gasp. Oh no, the deep red liquid in her hand, as if perfectly calculated, splashed entirely and precisely onto the left hem of my gown. The dark velvet was instantly soaked, spreading a large, unsightly wine-red stain as the sticky liquid trickled down the fabric, creating a complete mess. Ah, Miss Zhong, I'm so sorry. So sorry, I really didn't mean to. Shen Qianli steadied herself and repeatedly apologized, her face full of panic and innocence, her eyes wide like a startled fawn, but I caught that fleeting glimmer of smug satisfaction in her eyes. The surrounding chatter and laughter came to an abrupt halt, all eyes turned in my direction. The commotion I caused clearly drew more attention than Zhou Songjin's entrance. Several nearby ladies gasped softly, their hands flying to cover their mouths. Oh my god. That dress, it's a limited edition haute couture piece, isn't it? Ruined. What's wrong with this in turn? So clumsy. I don't think it was an accident. Whispers spread through the crowd like a rising tide. Zhou Songjin clearly noticed the commotion as well, his brow furrowed deeply as he strode over quickly. His gaze first fell on my stained dress, a flicker of barely perceptible irritation in his eyes, then shifted to the panicked Shen Qianli before finally settling on my face. His eyes held no concern for the victim, only the annoyance of being disturbed, and a guardedness against me possibly making a scene. What happened? Zhou Songjin's voice carried its usual deep tone, yet it betrayed a hint of impatience. Shen Qianli immediately grabbed his arm, her voice choked with tears as she hurriedly explained in a pitiful tone. Songjin, I just lost my balance and accidentally spilled wine on Miss Zhong's dress. I really didn't mean to. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed, appearing utterly pitiful. Zhou Songjin patted her hand reassuringly, then turned to me with a deepening frown, his tone carrying an air of righteous accusation. Lingjia, Qianli is young and inexperienced. It wasn't intentional. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the stain on my dress, his tone dismissive and almost condescending. It's just a dress, I'll buy you 10 more later. Don't make a scene and embarrass yourself at an event like this. The statement was well-reasoned, with clear logic and a firm stance. Given their youth and lack of experience, their mistake is understandable. It wasn't intentional, so I shouldn't make a big deal out of it. It's just a piece of clothing, not worth mentioning. If I were to make a fuss about it, I'd be blowing things out of proportion and lowering myself. Look at this, the same old formula, the same old flavor. In my past life, he used this kind of rhetoric, seemingly fair but utterly biased, to paint me as unreasonable time and again, while fueling Shen Qianli's arrogance every single time. The silence around us was deafening. Everyone was staring at us, each with a different look in their eyes. Some were stunned by Zhou Songjin's words. Others sneered at Shen Qianli's acting, but most were watching to see how I would react. Shen Qianli nestled close to Zhou Songjin, a barely perceptible triumphant smirk playing on her lips. In a hushed, rapid whisper audible only to the three of us, she said, "See, he'll always take my side." Her voice dripped with smugness and gloating. Watching her gloating, petty expression and Zhou Songjin's arrogant demeanor of thinking he had everything under control, I suddenly let out a low, soft chuckle. It wasn't anger, nor was it hurt, just genuine amusement. My laughter cut sharply through the silence, laced with a hint of mockery and chill. Both Zhou Songjin and Shen Qianli froze, clearly taken aback by my reaction. I stopped laughing, lifted my gaze calmly to meet Zhou Songjin's eyes, my face devoid of any humiliation or anger, only an unfathomable coldness. "Mr. Zhou," I began, my voice soft yet carrying clearly to everyone present, "there's no need for you to pay for the clothes. Our Zhong family isn't short of that kind of money. My tone was even, yet carried an undeniable authority. Zhou Songjin's expression shifted slightly. I shifted my focus, my gaze settling on Shen Qianli beside him, who still seemed rattled, my tone laced with just the right amount of curiosity and skepticism. I'm just a little curious. The International Business Forum is a high-caliber event where every attendee is an elite in their field. Every word and action reflects on one's personal and corporate image and integrity. My voice, steady and measured, cut through the veneer of pretense like an icy blade. Mr. Zhou, this assistant you brought along. I deliberately paused slightly on the word assistant. Can't even manage the most basic courtesy. Holding a glass steady, my gaze returned to Zhou Songjin's face, sharp and penetrating. Such a breach of decorum at this occasion nearly caused an incident with other attendees. Is this a matter of individual incompetence, or, I raised an eyebrow slightly, my tone laden with implication, does your company have certain oversights in personnel selection and etiquette training? His words carried immense weight. Instead of getting bogged down in petty arguments about intentions, I elevated the discussion to address matters of personal competence, professional integrity, and even the company's public image. A dead silence fell over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. Everyone was stunned by my relentless, straight-to-the-point questioning. The few big shots who had been watching the drama unfold now looked at Zhou Songjin with completely different eyes. Their initial amusement, perhaps even a touch of leniency towards a young man's romantic escapades, had shifted into stern scrutiny and disapproval. Bringing an assistant who was clearly out of her depth and couldn't even hold a wine glass steady to such an occasion was, in itself, highly unprofessional and a serious misstep. Now that this assistant has caused trouble, instead of properly disciplining them and offering a sincere apology, Zhou Songjin is blindly shielding them and accusing the victim of making a mountain out of a molehill. This is practically treating such a serious business forum as a joke. The composure on Zhou Songjin's face completely vanished. His face was livid, his lips pressed tightly together, and he stared at me with a sinister glare. As if he were truly seeing me for the first time. He clearly didn't expect me to break the mold so unexpectedly, putting him and his company on the spot right in front of all these important figures. Shen Qianli was also stunned. She had imagined I'd either fly into a rage or burst into tears. Either reaction would have cemented her portrayal of me as petty and unable to tolerate others. But she never anticipated that with just a few casual remarks, I'd paint her as incompetent and unprofessional, even dragging Zhou Songjin and the Zhou Corporation's reputation into it. As she met the skeptical and icy stares from the powerful figures around her, and saw Zhou Songjin's expression darken to an alarming degree, it finally dawned on her. She might have made a catastrophic mistake. The color slowly drained from her meticulously made-up face, leaving behind nothing but panic and pallor. I didn't mean, she tried to explain. But her voice was as faint as a mosquito's buzz, utterly feeble and unconvincing in the tense, oppressive silence. Miss Zhong is absolutely right, an esteemed senior entrepreneur said gravely, his stern gaze sweeping over Zhou Songjin and Shen Qianli. On occasions like this, one must be mindful of their conduct. Personal behavior often reflects on the company's reputation. His words fell like a final gavel strike. The others around nodded in agreement and began murmuring among themselves. Mr. Zhou really didn't think this through. What kind of impression does it make to bring someone like that along? It seems there might be some real issues with Zhou Corporation's internal management. Young man, it's understandable to be swept away by emotions, but there's a line between personal and professional matters. Though spoken in hushed tones, these remarks landed like successive slaps across Zhou Songjin's face. After dominating the business world for years, when had he ever faced such public questioning and criticism? And all of this was because of the woman beside him, whom he had just moments ago found innocent and charming. For the first time, his gaze towards Shen Qianli held undisguised irritation and displaced anger. Shen Qianli shuddered under his stare, and real tears finally fell, not feigned this time, but born of fear. I watched it all unfold with cold detachment, my heart utterly unmoved. I smoothed my already tidy hair and gave a slight nod to the elderly entrepreneur who had spoken and the other concerned elders nearby. Please excuse me for a moment, I need to attend to my dress. My demeanor remained composed, as if the earlier commotion was nothing more than a trivial episode to me. I turned and walked toward the lounge with steady steps. Behind me were Zhou Songjin's suppressed rage, Shen Qianli's soft sobs, and the meaningful glances and hushed whispers of the crowd. Chapter 4. While financial media wouldn't directly report the scandalous affair from the International Business Forum, industry insiders had their own channels to learn the details. Zhou Songjin bringing an unqualified assistant to an important event, causing a wine-throwing scandal, and getting his professional competence publicly questioned by his ex-fiancé. This incident became dinner table gossip for many and made some previously optimistic partners of Zhou Corporation have second thoughts. Zhou Corporation's stock price experienced several consecutive days of gradual decline after the forum, though the drop wasn't significant. For someone as proud as Zhou Songjin, it undoubtedly served as a wake-up call. What irritated him even more was that Shen Qianli seemed to have learned nothing from that lesson. She was still obsessed with maintaining her influencer persona, but the public sentiment was beginning to shift subtly. In her live streams, she no longer just shared those meticulously crafted, sweet daily moments. A faint trace of melancholy and anxiety began to show in her expression. Songjin has been so busy lately, he barely has any time for me, she complained to the camera, fiddling with the new bracelet Zhou Songjin had given her. Sometimes it takes him forever to reply to my messages. Her loyal fans in the bullet comments were still trying to defend him. Be good, Xiaoli, President Zhou is a big boss, of course he's busy, a man should prioritize his career, you should be more understanding, Xiaoli, exactly, President Zhou is working hard to build a better future for you both. However, these words of comfort didn't soothe Shen Qianli at all. Instead, they seemed to strike a raw nerve. Her eyes reddened, her voice choked with emotion, and she began to recite her unshakable, true love theory. But, isn't love supposed to mean being together all the time, sharing every joy and sorrow? If he really cared about me, no matter how busy he was, he'd find a moment to reply to my messages. You have no idea how agonizing this waiting and uncertainty is. Her voice trembled with growing distress as tears conveniently traced down her cheeks. Some fans were moved by her heartfelt display and showered the stream with comforting gifts, sending hugs. Xiaoli, don't cry, love conquers all, go Xiaoli, Boss Zhou, come quick, your Xiaoli is being treated unfairly. However, some more level-headed viewers voiced different opinions. This feels a bit overdramatic. With his status and packed schedule, how could Mr. Zhou possibly revolve around his girlfriend every single day? Is she maybe a bit too obsessed with romance? Yeah, it feels like she's made love her entire world. These jarring comments, though quickly buried under the shipping fans' spam, pricked Shen Qianli's heart like tiny thorns. They also reached Zhou Songjin's eyes through the screen, as he occasionally checked in on her live streams. As Zhou Songjin watched Shen Qianli on the screen, weeping, constantly demanding attention and companionship, and compared her to the version of me in his memory who was always composed, never caused him trouble, and even supported his career, he felt an indescribable weariness for the first time. This weariness quickly intensified in reality, due to the forum controversy and stock price fluctuations. Zhou Songjin was buried under a mountain of tasks, working late into the night for several consecutive days, which had already put him on edge, yet Shen Qianli seemed completely oblivious to his stress, or perhaps she noticed, but her need for love took precedence. She started checking up on him more obsessively than ever. The phone calls came one after another, and WeChat messages bombarded him non-stop. The content was always along the lines of, Songjin, are you still busy? When are you coming back? I'm so scared being alone, don't you love me anymore? Why are you being so distant? Zhou Songjin initially humored her with replies like in a meeting or I'll be back after work, but eventually muted her notifications entirely. Yet Shen Qianli's neediness far exceeded what he had anticipated. That afternoon, Zhou Songjin was in the conference room discussing crisis management strategies for a critical project with key executives, the atmosphere thick with tension. Suddenly, the conference room door burst open. Shen Qianli stormed in, wearing a sweet-style dress completely out of place in the office, her face a mix of hurt and a stubborn I need answers determination. All eyes in the room snapped toward her. Filled with shock and disapproval, Zhou Songjin's face darkened instantly. What are you doing here? Get out. Shen Qianli either didn't hear his scolding, or more likely, she simply didn't care. Holding up her phone that was live streaming, she rushed right up to Zhou Songjin, shoving the camera directly into his grim face. In a voice trembling with fake tears yet straining for sweetness, she asked, Songjin, all our fans are asking, when are we getting married? You promised me. After you finished this busy period we would. This is absurd. Zhou Songjin slammed his hand on the table, a vein bulging at his temple, his anger boiling over. Qianli, this is a conference room, I'm in the middle of important business, get the hell out of here. He had never spoken to her in such a stern tone before. Qianli froze at his outburst, her phone hovering mid-air, expression petrified, tears welling in her eyes. The live stream chat froze for a split second before exploding with messages. Holy crap, President Zhou is furious. Why did Xiaoli just storm into the conference room? That's really a bit. I feel so bad for Xiaoli. Director Zhou is so harsh. No matter how angry he is, he shouldn't yell at his girlfriend like that, right? Are you an idiot? This is a meeting. Have some sense of propriety. Zhou Songjin's assistant finally caught up, drenched in sweat, and managed to drag the stunned Qianli out, half pulling and half persuading her. The conference room door closed again, but the atmosphere had already been completely ruined. Zhou Songjin looked at the varied expressions on his subordinates' faces and felt a surge of fury rush to his head. His face turned ashen, and he couldn't utter a single word for a long time. For the first time, he realized with such clarity how utterly foolish and inappropriate Qianli's so-called innocence and courage were in the face of reality. Just as Zhou Songjin was being overwhelmed by Qianli's antics and subtle doubts began surfacing within his company, another piece of news firmly claimed the headline spot in the financial section. Zhong Lingjia, at the helm of the Zhong Group, led her team overseas for negotiations and successfully secured a major strategic partnership deal with the global tech giant, Noah Group. This move is poised to reshape the industry landscape. In the accompanying news photo, I am wearing a sharp white tailored suit dress, shaking hands with the CEO of Noah Group at the signing ceremony. My smile is confident and composed, my eyes bright, and my presence commanding. The report provides a detailed analysis of how, despite facing formidable competitors ahead and the fallout from the broken engagement with the Zhou family behind, I ultimately won Noah Group's favor through my sharp insight, professional negotiation skills, and the Zhong Group's solid financial strength. In the concluding remarks, the author pointedly noted, despite recent personal tribulations, Ms. Zhong's professional excellence remains undiminished. Her composure and competence have grown more pronounced, echoing her father's distinguished demeanor, a quality worthy of admiration. The article landed like a stinging slap across certain faces. Zhong Group stock surged in response, demonstrating robust momentum. My capabilities have gained broader recognition within the industry. That evening, the Zhongs held an intimate victory celebration. The banquet was hosted in the Sky Garden of a premier downtown hotel, an elegant setting attended exclusively by genuine socialites and key business partners. I moved through the crowd with grace, engaging effortlessly in lively conversations, no longer just someone's fiancé. I was now the Zhong heir, earning respect through my own capabilities. Lingjia, congratulations, that was a masterfully executed victory. Uncle Li, the chairman, raised his glass in tribute. Thank you, Uncle Li. I couldn't have done it without the support from all my elders and friends. I smiled as I clinked glasses with him, maintaining a poised and dignified demeanor. That Zhou boy is truly blind. Another uncle who was close with my father muttered under his breath, his tone laced with pity and disdain. I simply smiled without responding, taking an elegant sip of champagne instead. As for me, the past has already faded like fleeting clouds. My gaze remains fixed on the road ahead. The atmosphere in Zhou Songjin's office was heavy. He had just finished an exhausting video conference and was rubbing his throbbing temples when he absent-mindedly picked up the tablet his assistant had left on the desk, habitually scrolling through the day's financial headlines. That's when he saw it, the overwhelming flood of coverage about my collaboration with Noah Group. In the photo, I'm radiating energy and confidence, holding my own as I shake hands with the Noah CEO. You can practically feel the equal footing through the screen. The comments below were nothing but praise and admiration. Ms. Zhong is absolutely killing it. Now that's what I call a true socialite. Incredibly capable and stunningly beautiful. I'm totally smitten. So much for those who said Ms. Zhong couldn't make it without Mr. Zhou. Her career is thriving now. Compared to someone who only knows how to cry on live streams about true love, the difference is night and day. Zhou Songjin must be kicking himself with regret by now. Zhou Songjin's finger froze on the screen, his gaze fixed on the photo with a complex expression. The person in the photo felt both unfamiliar and familiar to me. What seemed unfamiliar was that radiant, independent glow, completely beyond his control. What felt familiar was the posture that should have been standing by his side, overlooking the business world together, countless times in similar business settings. He had relished the deep satisfaction of our perfect synergy when I was by his side. Back then, he took it for granted, but now, his gaze drifted involuntarily to his phone, where Shen Qianli had just sent a string of WeChat voice messages, each stamped with a pouty emoji. Songjin, are you still mad at me? I know I was wrong to come find you in the conference room, but I missed you so much. Will you be home for dinner tonight? I learned to make your favorite dish. Annoying, childish, and utterly unprofessional. An indescribable mix of irritation and regret began coiling around his heart like creeping vines. It suddenly struck him how I never disturbed him unnecessarily during work, always offered the most fitting advice when he needed it, and moved through every social setting with such effortless grace, earning so much acclaim and advantage for him. For the Zhou family, all those overlooked, even taken for granted acts of devotion now stood in stark, painful contrast to the endless trouble and negative repercussions Shen Qianli brought. Who truly belongs by his side? The answer seemed self-evident. Late at night, I just got home from the celebration party, removed my makeup, took a relaxing hot bath, and was about to go to bed. The phone on the nightstand suddenly lit up. It was a WeChat message from Zhou Songjin. I raised an eyebrow and picked up my phone, tapped to open. The screen displayed the message he'd sent. His tone was unprecedentedly subdued, even carrying a barely perceptible hint of vulnerability. Zhou Songjin, Lingjia, are you asleep? I didn't reply. A few minutes later, another message popped up. Zhou Songjin, saw the news today. Congratulations, you handled the Noah project brilliantly. Still no response. He seemed to be getting impatient, or maybe the alcohol was getting to him. I bet he's drinking to drown his sorrows right now. He sent another, much longer message, and the tone was even more ambiguous. Zhou Songjin, Lingjia, I know it might be too late to say this now, but I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. Zhou Songjin, only now do I realize who truly belongs by my side. Qianli, she's just too immature. Staring at those lines on the screen, I could almost see through the display, visualizing Zhou Songjin's nauseating expression of sudden enlightenment and his condescending change of heart, the one who truly belongs by his side. So his criteria were never about love, but about what's suitable, someone who can bring him benefits, boost his reputation, and help secure his base, not cause him trouble. In my past life, I was trapped by this most suitable theory, which ultimately led to my downfall. Now, I let out a scornful laugh. My gaze icy, without a moment's hesitation, I immediately took a screenshot, preserving every last one of Zhou Songjin's heartfelt pleas for reconciliation. Then, I tapped lightly on the screen. I found Shen Qianli's WeChat profile picture, and sent the screenshot. Sent. The postscript contained just one simple sentence, yet it was enough to ignite the powder keg. Miss Shen, keep your people in check, don't bother me again. After doing all that, I set my phone to silent and tossed it back onto the nightstand. Lights out, time for bed. Chapter 5. I could almost picture the exact expression on Shen Qianli's face when she opened that screenshot I sent her. It must have been the most hideous sight, her carefully maintained mask shattering completely, twisted into a grotesque blend of jealousy, rage, panic, and the sting of betrayal. After all her scheming and enduring the homewrecker label to steal this man, he now turns tail to grovel before his ex-fiancée the moment she annoys him by acting up, even using her as a stepping stone to prove his loyalty. This was nothing less than trampling all her pride, all her belief in love, underfoot and grinding them to dust. How could she possibly swallow this insult? How could she ever bring herself to accept it? And so, in the dead of night, a long premeditated, or rather, jealousy-driven, frenzied revenge unveiled its bloody curtain. Using her Weibo account with millions of followers, Shen Qianli published a lengthy 10,000-word letter of accusation. The title was shocking. Please, let us go. A common girl's tearful accusation written in blood and tears. The article pulled out all the stops to play on emotions. Every word dripped with blood and tears. Each sentence struck at the heart. She portrayed herself as an innocent girl, naive to the ways of the world, simply bravely pursuing true love, while I and the Zhong family were depicted as the villainous wealthy elite who bullied others with our power, used despicable means, and relentlessly persecuted her. She wrote that although I ostensibly called off the engagement, in reality, I was persistently pestering and haunting Zhou Songjin. She exposed how I leveraged the Zhong family's influence to pressure Zhou Songjin and his family, forcing him to reconcile with me, even threatening him with business cooperation. She lamented how I sent people to stalk her, secretly photograph her, loiter near her residence, subjecting her to death threats and psychological abuse, causing her to be unable to sleep at night and on the verge of a mental breakdown. To make her claims more convincing, she even posted several carefully fabricated pieces of evidence. There were blurry screenshots of what appeared to be WeChat conversations between us, in which my account hurled vicious insults at her and threatened to ruin her reputation. There were photoshopped images, though not particularly skilled, that showed me near her residential area, convincing enough to mislead uninformed netizens. There was a close-up of a band-aid on her wrist, implying it was a self-inflicted injury due to my pressure. At the end of the article, she cried out with all her might, "Zhong Lingjia, please let us be, we're just two people in love. What have we done to deserve this relentless persecution? Just because you come from privilege, with wealth and power, does that give you the right to trample on the dignity and love of ordinary people? Is there no justice left in this world?" Alongside this lengthy post, she simultaneously released a video. In the video, barefaced and pale, with red, swollen eyes, she wore a simple white t-shirt, huddled in a corner, silently weeping into the camera. Her shoulders trembled uncontrollably, her entire being as fragile as crystal on the verge of shattering. She didn't utter a single word, but her stifled sobs and desperate gaze were more stirring than any speech could ever be. This meticulously packaged bomb was detonated in the dead of night, its impact utterly devastating. The account, Shelley Chasing Love Fearlessly, already had massive built-in reach and an intensely devoted fanbase. This tearful exposé and the emotional video instantly ignited their outrage and self-righteous fury. Shares, comments, and likes exploded at an exponential rate. Related hashtags #Zhong Lingjia let Shelley go #Rich families can't do whatever they want #Zhenli true love is innocent rocketed to the top of trending charts, each marked with a glaring red breaking tag, like vultures drawn to carrion. Marketing accounts swarmed in, shamelessly reposting, fabricating, and fanning the flames, all for the sake of traffic. The comment section devolved into a cesspool of mob mentality and vile behavior. My personal Weibo account bore the brunt of the attack, under my latest business update celebrating the success of Project Noah. The initial flood of congratulations and praise was instantly drowned out by a tidal wave of vile insults and curses. "You vile woman, drop dead. Think money makes you special. Ruining true love deserves a cursed end. Trash, your plastic surgery face makes me sick. Go die already. Flashing daddy's money to get your way. Karma's coming for you. Stand with Shaoli. Boycott Zhong Corporation. Corrupt businesses get out of China. At cyber police at Capitol Security, someone here is making threats and intimidation. Arrest her now." The venomous comments rained down like poison-tipped arrows, relentless and overwhelming. But that wasn't enough. Obsessed fans and self-proclaimed justice warriors began systematically attacking the Zhong Group's official Weibo account and corporate website. The company's customer service hotline was flooded with calls, its inboxes were clogged with spam, and its promotional posts on Weibo were completely overrun with hateful comments. Even the social media accounts of my father's business partners and other companies associated with the Zhong Group faced varying degrees of harassment and attacks. Online, an unprecedented wave of cyberbullying targeting me personally and the Zhong family erupted with full force. Under the banner of justice, they commit the most vicious acts of bullying, lost in a collective frenzy of ridding the world of evil. Uncle Lin's hand trembled violently as he held the tablet. His face ashen and his breathing ragged. "Miss, they're completely lawless. This is slander, defamation. We need to send a lawyer's letter immediately. Sue them." I sat in the study, the computer screen reflecting the constantly flickering, malicious red notification numbers. Those vile words, like icy serpents, coiled around my neck, bringing with them a familiar, suffocating sense of oppression. In my past life, it was under this kind of overwhelming public condemnation that I was gradually driven into a corner, until I finally found myself on the rooftop. That feeling of utter isolation and helplessness, of being unable to defend myself no matter what I said, felt as if it had been carved into my very bones. My heart was suddenly gripped by a sharp, stabbing pain I couldn't control. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and forced myself to calm down. When my eyes opened again, they held a chilling clarity. "We will send the legal letter," I said, my voice hoarse yet steady. "But not now. Sending it now would only make them accuse us of having a guilty conscience and throwing our weight around, which would provoke even stronger backlash." Uncle Lin exclaimed urgently. "Are we just going to let them slander you and the Zhong family like this?" "Absolutely not. I tapped the desk lightly, my gaze sharp. Let them curse. Let them put on their little show. Let them revel in it. The higher they climb, the harder they fall, the more vicious their words, the more devastating the backlash will be. I opened the so-called evidence screenshots posted by Qianli, zoomed in, and carefully examined the clumsy Photoshop marks and fabricated chat logs. Back up all these screenshots, along with the IDs of every account that led the incitement and posted the most vicious insults. Get in touch with the best technical and PR teams. I want a professional analysis report proving this evidence is fabricated. Also, I paused, my gaze turning profound. It's time to bring that key witness out of hiding. Old Lin was taken aback. You mean? I gave a slight nod, leaving the words unspoken, but my eyes said it all. In my past life, Qianli used this very talent for twisting the truth to cause my death. This time around, I was already prepared for that move of hers. She probably thought no one knew about her dirty tricks hidden behind the screen. Little did she know. From the moment I was reborn, I had been waiting for the day she would dig her own grave. Amid this online firestorm, one person maintained a telling silence throughout, Zhou Songjin. There's no way he could have missed Qianli's riddled with holes accusation letter. Given his shrewdness and deep understanding of both me and the Zhong family, he must have known how utterly ridiculous those so-called evidences were. Yet he chose to remain silent. He didn't utter a single word in my defense. Nor did he attempt to clarify anything, even when his company's official account was drawn into the controversy and questioned. They only issued a cold, detached response. This is purely a personal matter, and the company will not comment. His silence at this moment was nothing short of tacit approval, and indulgence. I could almost read his mind. He was probably annoyed by Qianli's reckless behavior, feeling she'd landed him in even deeper trouble. Yet on the other hand, he might have been secretly anticipating it. He's waiting for me to be driven into a corner by this public opinion, with no way out, until I'm forced to swallow my pride and turn to him for help, begging for his protection and intervention to clear my name. He relishes this feeling of being needed, looked up to, and in complete control. He hopes that by doing this, he can force me to face reality and come to my senses. In his eyes, this might be his chance to save face, or even to get me back under his thumb. How utterly foolish and laughably arrogant. He must have forgotten that I'm no longer the Zhong Lingjia who had to depend on him and live at the mercy of him and Qianli. His silence and indulgence are just another glaring entry in the ledger of grievances I've been keeping against him. My phone kept vibrating with messages of concern and inquiries. There were concerned family and friends, business partners testing the waters, and media outlets eager to stir up trouble. I gave brief replies to each, calm in tone but firm in stance. Innocence needs no defense, and I trust the legal process. Then, I turned off notifications for most of my social media apps. Only the faint hum of the computer fan remained in the study. I walked to the window and drew back the heavy curtains. Outside, the sky was already tinged with the first light of dawn. The city's silhouette grew distinct in the morning glow, heralding the start of a new day. The online storm raging against me wouldn't stop the sun from rising as usual. I stared at my reflection in the glass, calm, even with a hint of ruthlessness. The vile insults and malicious slander surged like a tide, but they could no longer truly drown me, because this time, what I held in my hands was no longer some abstract notion of innocence or dignity. It was solid, tangible evidence, the kind that shatters every lie and stain of filth. Qianli, go ahead and make your scene. The sinister fire you've stirred up, let it burn even fiercer. When it reaches its peak, that's when you, along with your filthy lies, will be reduced to ashes. I picked up the internal phone and dialed a number. Yeah, it's me. How's the material coming along? Good. Notify everyone we're holding a press conference at 10 a.m. 3 days from now. Correct. It'll be streamed live across all platforms. Chapter 6. 3 days flew by in a blur. Caught between the online uproar and the stifling calm of reality, over those 3 days, Qianli's accusations kept gaining traction. Her supporters, fired up and full of zeal, waged their campaign across every platform, seemingly determined to permanently brand me as the vindictive ex-girlfriend. The Zhong Group faced immense public pressure, with its stock price experiencing some volatility, but its core operations remained fundamentally unaffected. Zhou Songjin remained silent, and his company was tarnished by the scandal. Everyone was waiting for my response. Day 3, 9:50 a.m. The largest press hall at the capital's top-tier conference center was packed to capacity. the press corps from major domestic and international media had already set up their equipment, with reporters murmuring among themselves in an atmosphere thick with tension and anticipation. Meanwhile, more eyes were glued to the livestream links on various online platforms, where the viewer count had already surged to a staggering number even before the press conference began. The comment section remained flooded with frenzied posts from Shin Qianli's supporters. How dare this venomous woman hold a press conference? Let's see what excuses she'll come up with. Can't wait to see Zhong Lingjia crash and burn. Standing with Shaoli, justice will prevail. However, a growing number of level-headed netizens are starting to speak up. Let's wait and see how this plays out. I have a feeling there's more to this story. Miss Zhong stayed silent all this time, only to come back with a live press conference. She must have some solid evidence up her sleeve. Grab some popcorn and enjoy the show. Hope it doesn't disappoint. 9:59 p.m. The venue lights suddenly blazed on. Dressed in a sharply tailored black skirt suit, I wore no makeup except for a touch of lipstick to brighten my complexion, with a calm demeanor and piercing gaze. I walked steadily onto the podium accompanied by my lawyer and assistant. Every lens in the room instantly focused on me. A sea of camera flashes erupted. I approached the microphone and, without speaking immediately, slowly swept my composed gaze across the entire room. The once bustling venue gradually fell into a hush. Even the live stream comments seemed to slow their frantic pace. Everyone held their breath, waiting for me to speak. Good morning to our friends in the media and all the viewers tuning in live. My voice carried through the microphone across the venue, clear, steady, and imbued with an undeniable authority. I am Zhong Lingjia. Today's press conference is convened to formally address and present evidence regarding a series of grossly inaccurate, defamatory, and slanderous statements made against me and my family by the online user Brave Little Pear in Pursuit of Love, also known as MS Shin Qianli. Across various social media platforms, straight to the point, without a single wasted word, I turned slightly and signaled the staff to begin the PowerPoint presentation. The massive electronic screen behind them lit up. First, let's address MS Shin Qianli's false accusations that I persistently harassed Mr. Zhou Songjing and used my family's influence to pressure him into reconciling. The screen initially displayed several screenshots of WeChat conversations, but these weren't the ones fabricated by Shin Qianli. It was the screen recording of those reconciliation messages Zhou Songjing sent me. Everything from Zhou Songjing's WeChat avatar and display name, to the content and timestamps of each message, was crystal clear for everyone to see, especially those last two messages. Zhou Songjing. Only now do I realize who truly belongs by my side. Qianli, she's just too immature. The stark text, combined with the unedited screen recording meticulously restored by our technical team, hit like a sledgehammer in absolute silence. The venue erupted in gasps of sheer astonishment that no one could contain. The live stream chat went completely wild. Holy crap, the plot twist is here. Zhou Songjing was the one begging to get back together, and he's badmouthing Shin Qianli. What happened to Zhong Lingjia being the one pressuring them? This backfired so quickly. That's not how Shin Qianli told it in her little essay. She painted herself as this poor, coerced victim. So Boss Zhou wanted to rekindle things, got rejected, and Shin Qianli just started spreading rumors out of spite. What a stinging slap in the face. I stood on the stage, watching the content on the screen play out with an expressionless face. And only after it had finished did I slowly begin to speak, my voice still calm and steady. These messages were sent on the evening of X month X day. The sender was Mr. Zhou Songjing. The content clearly shows that it was he who considered MS Shin Qianli unreasonable and then turned to me to express what he called a desire to reconcile. I don't know what facts MS Shin Qianli based her conclusion on that I was persistently harassing and pressuring for a reunion. Perhaps in her mind, my mere existence, refusing to vanish completely from her world as she demands, constitutes coercion. The subtle sarcasm carried more weight than any vehement rebuttal. Without waiting for the commotion to subside, I signaled to present the next set of evidence. Next, regarding the so-called evidence of me threatening and harassing MS Shin Qianli, as presented by her. The screen displayed side-by-side comparisons of the chat screenshots and doctored photos originally shared by Shin Qianli. According to authoritative analysis conducted by top domestic cybersecurity institutions and forensic image experts, it has been confirmed. The large screen began a frame-by-frame analysis of those screenshots and photos. When magnified, The chat screenshots clearly revealed jagged edges around profile pictures, subtle font discrepancies from WeChat's default typeface, and incorrect timestamp formats. The technical report highlighted signs of forgery with red circles and included comparison images with authentic WeChat interfaces. The conclusion was clear and definitive. The chat records were artificially fabricated. Photos allegedly showing me near her residence were proven through technical restoration and pixel analysis to be composites, where my facial features were digitally grafted onto unrelated images using editing software. Experts even identified potential sources of the original photos. One authenticated report after another, each bearing an official seal, was displayed in close-up on the screen. The evidence is overwhelming. Whoosh, the venue erupted in a frenzy. Journalists excitedly reported into their cameras at breakneck speed, while camera shutters clicked like a sudden storm. The livestream chat is completely flooded with "holy shit" and exclamation marks. It's confirmed. Qianli fabricated evidence, spreading rumors with photoshopped images. This is criminal offense, isn't it? Where are those who insulted Miss Zhong earlier? Come out and apologize. Qianli is absolutely vicious. She's trying to destroy someone completely. My heart goes out to Miss Zhong for being targeted by such a rabid dog. The internet isn't a lawless space. I support Miss Zhong taking legal action against her. I watched the agitated crowd below and raised my voice, letting it cut through the air with icy sharpness. Qianli has fabricated so-called evidence to incite online public opinion, launching extensive slander and character assassination against me. Her actions have severely violated my right to reputation and constitute defamation. I have submitted all relevant evidence to the public security authorities. Bombshell revelations kept coming, one after another. The atmosphere in the venue had reached a fever pitch. But I knew this wasn't enough. To ensure Qianli is completely and permanently finished, we need one final, fatal blow. I took a deep breath and signaled the staff to play the final piece of evidence. Finally, this is my response to Qianli's accusations of stalking, harassment, and even death threats against me. An audio file icon appeared on the screen. Speaking deliberately into the microphone, I said, "This is a technically processed phone recording. The source is legitimate, but the content, I'll leave that for you to judge." I pressed the play button. After a brief burst of static, a woman's voice, though digitally altered, still clearly conveyed its tone and certain vocal qualities, echoing through the press conference hall and reaching countless viewers online via the live stream. It was unmistakably Qianli's voice. She was speaking to someone, her tone dripping with venom and calculation. "Qianli, the current level of attention isn't enough. I want to completely ruin her reputation, destroy her forever." The other person, obscured. "How do you plan to do that?" "Stalking, threats, those carry huge risks." Qianli scoffs. "What's there to fear? It's just fabricating some chat logs and photos. Those idiot netizens are so easy to fool. Once we firmly pin the wealthy elite bullying the common people label on her, plenty of people will naturally curse her out for me. When the time comes, we can make black look white." Qianli, voice growing increasingly venomous. "I won't just ruin her reputation, I'll drag the entire Zhong family down with her. Let's see how long she can keep up that superior act around me." Qianli, find me some reliable social media influencers. Money is no object. I want this scandal to blow up as big as possible. I'm going to make sure Zhong Lingjia disappears from this circle for good. The recording ends here. The venue fell into dead silence. You could hear a pin drop. Everyone was rendered speechless by the raw, jealous, and venomous murderous intent revealed in the recording. In just a few dozen seconds, the recording completely tore off Qianli's facade of purity, innocence, and bravery for love. What was exposed was a vicious, unscrupulous monster who attempted to use public opinion to commit murder. The livestream chat exploded like a tsunami after a brief pause. "Holy shit. That gave me goosebumps. How vicious. This is murder. It's a deliberate setup. This sends chills down my spine. Is this woman the devil herself? Where are all those idiots who supported her before? Come on, show yourselves. Call the police. We must call the police. This is no longer slander. This is attempted murder." Qianli, get off the planet. Amid the roaring voices, I stood on the stage like the eye of the storm, yet remained remarkably calm. I looked at the shocked, angry, and sympathetic faces in the audience, then turned to the camera and began speaking slowly, my voice amplified by the microphone to reach every corner of the room. The foregoing constitutes my response to all of Qianli's false accusations. as well as the complete evidence regarding her alleged fabrication of evidence and defamation against me. I paused briefly, letting my gaze sweep across the entire room before finally settling on the camera lens, my tone growing profoundly serious. As for Ms. Qianli's personal character and professional ethics, I signaled to the staff to switch to the final slide. It was a partial screenshot of a financial statement, with several suspicious fund transfers highlighted in red circles. The recipient was a shell company linked to Qianli. This is preliminary evidence suggesting that Ms. Qianli, during her internship and subsequent role as Mr. Zhou Songjin's assistant at Zhou Group, exploited her position to allegedly embezzle company funds for personal expenses and what she termed marketing promotions. I trust that the law will deliver the fairest judgment. The moment the words left his mouth, the doors to the press conference swung open. Several uniformed police officers entered with stern expressions, heading straight for the podium. The lead officer presented his badge and a document to me, announcing in a clear, firm voice, "Ms. Zhonglingjia, thank you for providing the evidence. We have now officially accepted the case you reported regarding Qianli's alleged defamation and false accusation, and will conduct a consolidated investigation into her other suspected illegal activities, including embezzlement of public funds. These are the case filing notice and summons. We will initiate the investigation process against the suspect Qianli in accordance with the law." Click, click, click. The journalists' cameras frantically focused on this historic moment. The livestream chat is going absolutely wild. The police are here. They're arresting her on the spot. Yes, justice always prevails in the end. Qianli is finished. This is so satisfying. Now this is true justice. Ms. Zhong is absolutely incredible. That comeback was absolutely brilliant. I cooperatively took the documents and gave the officer a nod. Then, I turned to the camera, watching the scrolling barrage of comments on the screen that vented both rage and schadenfreude. Finally, a faint, cold, victorious smile touched my lips. Chapter 7. The press conference detonated like a nuclear warhead in deep waters, sending shockwaves that swept through the entire digital world before violently reverberating back into reality with overwhelming force. The live footage of police entering the press conference to announce Qianli's formal investigation was edited into countless variations, spreading like wildfire across all major platforms. Hashtags like "Justice Delayed is not Justice Denied," "Real-life heroine arc," and "Slanderers finally face consequences" dominated the top trending searches. This stood in stark contrast to Qianli's complete and utter downfall, less than 2 hours after the press conference. An even more explosive video started circulating wildly online. The video appeared to be shot in the hallway of a rental unit in an old residential complex, with shaky footage and chaotic background noise. Several uniformed police officers were escorting a disheveled woman out of a room as she struggled violently and screamed. It was Qianli. Her hair was disheveled, and she was still wearing the same white dress she often wore during live streams to cultivate her pure and innocent persona. But now, the hem was stained with dirt, her meticulously applied makeup was smeared with tears and snot, her expression was contorted, and she was hysterical. "Let me go. What right do you have to arrest me? This is true love. Songjin and I are genuinely in love. You ordinary people just don't understand," she screamed at the top of her lungs, kicking her legs wildly as she struggled to break free from the police officer's grip. Her frenzied state created a stark, chilling, and deeply ironic contrast to the delicate, pitiable, and brave image she had previously projected in front of the camera. True love. Pfft, how disgusting. The person filming couldn't help but spit in contempt. Neighbors gathered around, pointing and whispering among themselves, their faces filled with scorn and revulsion. "He looks all proper and respectable, but turns out he's a con artist, some true love. Scamming people out of their money and spreading lies to frame the real young lady. What a vicious heart. Officer, arrest her now. We're all terrified having this menace living in our neighborhood." In the final moments of the video, Qianli was forcibly shoved into the police car, her piercing shrieks of resentment and bitterness still seeming to echo through the hallway. This video became the final straw that broke the camel's back. Her so-called fans, who had been deceived into championing her cause, now felt profoundly betrayed and humiliated. In their fury, they turned against her and joined the ranks of those condemning her. "I must have been blind. How could I ever support such a venomous woman? She used us all as pawns. How despicable. Apologize. You must apologize to Miss Zhong. I demand a harsher sentence. This scum of society doesn't deserve leniency." The real-world consequences came swiftly and mercilessly, one after another. Brands that were once clamoring to work with her were the first to issue urgent statements, announcing the termination of all partnerships with Shen Qianli and reserving the right to pursue compensation for damages caused to their brands by her personal scandal. Major social media platforms also acted swiftly, permanently banning the account Brave Little Pair Chasing Love and all associated accounts on grounds of spreading false information and suspected illegal activities. The once wildly popular influencer with millions of followers was virtually erased from the online world overnight, leaving behind only countless digital ruins filled with mockery and condemnation. And this is only the beginning. According to police reports, Shen Qianli has been formally criminally detained on suspicion of defamation, false accusation, and embezzlement, the latter following an internal tip-off at Zhou Group and preliminary investigation. She now faces the full force of the law. The high society she schemed so desperately to enter has slammed every door shut on her the moment she was imprisoned, with people now scrambling to distance themselves. Trapped in a desperate situation, Shen Qianli, after her initial breakdown and hysteria, whether driven by a lingering shred of hope or sheer instinct born of having nowhere else to turn, actually tried to contact Zhou Songjin after her first interrogation. Through some unknown channel, she managed to get a message out, pleading with Zhou Songjin to save her and hire the best lawyer for her, yet the response she received was a coldness more biting than Arctic ice. Not only did Zhou Songjin fail to show up, he didn't even offer a single word in reply. Shen Qianli refused to accept it. She couldn't believe the man who once looked at her with admiration and indulged all her little tantrums could be so heartless. The moment she was released on bail, while other charges were still under investigation, the defamation case met the conditions and left the detention center. She desperately rushed to the headquarters building of Zhou Corporation, haggard and pale, wearing the ill-fitting clothes from the detention center. She tried to force her way into the building. "I want to see Songjin, let me see Zhou Songjin, he loves me, he will save me," she screamed at the receptionists and security guards like a madwoman. The news quickly reached the CEO's office on the top floor. Zhou Songjin stood before the massive floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the small, disheveled figure below. There was no trace of pity in his eyes, only endless annoyance and fear of being tainted by her, fear of having even the slightest connection with her. He picked up the intercom, his voice icy and devoid of any human emotion. "That lunatic downstairs, I don't want to see her again, handle it." The order was swiftly carried out. Several towering bodyguards appeared with expressionless faces, flanking Shen Qianli, who was still crying and struggling. "What are you doing? Let me go." "Songjin, Zhou Songjin, look at them." Shen Qianli desperately twisted her head, gazing up at the towering skyscraper's top floor, desperately hoping to catch a glimpse of that familiar figure. One of the bodyguards, in a flat, deliberate tone loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, said word by word, "Miss Shen, Mr. Zhou asked me to tell you, he does not know you." The words struck Shen Qianli like a poison-tipped dagger, plunging straight into her heart. All her cries and struggles ceased abruptly in that moment. Her eyes widened, the last glimmer of light in her pupils extinguished, leaving only ashen despair and disbelief, like a sack of potatoes. She was ruthlessly dragged by the bodyguards and dumped on a street corner far from the Zhou Corporation building. All around her, passers-by pointed and stared, their hushed, mocking whispers filling the air. Slumped on the cold ground, she stared at the building, a symbol of power and wealth she had once desperately longed to enter, and finally understood. She had lost not only love, her reputation, and her freedom, but even the last shred of her usefulness had been coldly discarded by that man. She had nothing left. Zhou Songjin was having an equally tough time. The scandal surrounding Shen Qianli spread like wildfire, quickly engulfing Zhou Corporation. The damaging narrative of the CEO's poor judgment in maintaining close ties with a fraudster and embezzler severely tarnished the company's reputation. Investor confidence plummeted, triggering consecutive trading halts as the stock price crashed and market value evaporated at an alarming rate. To make matters worse, the fallout from the previous forum scandal hadn't even settled, and now the company's management capabilities and internal controls were being called into serious question. The boardroom was thick with tension. Several influential board members had finally had enough of Zhou Songjin dragging the company through the mud due to his personal misconduct. "Songjin, you owe all shareholders a full explanation for this." Have you even calculated the financial damage your personal conduct has inflicted on the company? We have serious doubts about your continued suitability for the role of group president. Zhou Songjin was overwhelmed and struggling to cope as the board of directors collectively turned against him. His former allies were deserting him one by one, and even his subordinates began to regard him with unmistakable suspicion. For the first time, he truly understood what it meant to be abandoned by all and have everyone kick you when you're down, and all of this was because of that approving look he once gave, because he had indulged Shen Qianli, because he had lost me, the immense psychological and drove him to the brink of collapse. After countless nights drowning his sorrows in drink, an absurd and self-righteous idea began to take shape in his mind. If only he could win me back. If only he could regain the Zhong family's support and Zhong Lingjia's assistance, he could stabilize the situation and reclaim everything he'd lost. And so, on a drizzly evening, a black luxury car wobbled to a halt outside the imposing, formidable wrought iron gates of the Zhong family villa. Zhou Songjin stepped out of the car. He didn't even bother with an umbrella, letting the icy rain soak his expensive suit. His face was puffy from a hangover, etched with a forced display of remorse and sorrow, his eyes rimmed with red. Then, under the stunned gaze of the security guard and surveillance cameras, he did something no one expected. With a loud thump, he dropped straight to his knees on the cold, damp ground before the villa's main gate. Rain instantly soaked through his trousers to his knees, but he seemed completely unaware. Lifting his head toward the main building of the villa, he let out a desperate, tear-choked wail, loud enough to be heard clearly even inside the guardhouse. Lingjia, Lingjia, I was wrong. I truly know I messed up. It was all Shen Qianli, that witch seduced me. She's the one who came onto me. You're the only one I've ever loved, Lingjia. Only you deserve to stand by my side. How could you forget all the years we've shared together? Please forgive me. Give me another chance. I can't live without you. He kept crying and confessing, portraying himself as a devoted man who had been deceived by a scheming woman and had now come to his senses. His acting was so clumsy it was nauseating. The news quickly reached the main residence. Old Lin frowned, holding an umbrella as he stood inside the gate. Through the iron bars, he looked at the man kneeling in the rain, acting like a madman, his eyes filled with contempt. Following my instructions. He didn't open the door but raised his voice to make sure Zhou Songjin could hear. Mr. Zhou. Zhou Songjin looked up abruptly as if grasping at a lifeline, his eyes filled with anticipation as he stared at Uncle Lin. Uncle Lin's face remained expressionless as he relayed my words verbatim, his voice clear and icy. Miss Zhong asked me to tell you, you and Miss Shen are the real deal. He paused briefly, watching Zhou Songjin's face instantly freeze, then continued, please don't come back and tarnish your pure love anymore. With that, Uncle Lin didn't spare him another glance, turned around, and calmly walked back to the main house under his umbrella. Zhou Songjin was left alone, kneeling rigidly in the downpour as if his very soul had been ripped out. Rain mingled with tears of humiliation, streaking across his face. All his scheming and theatrics crumbled into absurdity before my casual retort that permanently bound him to his so-called true love. The next day, an even more earth-shattering development for the business world was officially announced by the Zhong Group. The Zhong Group announced it will launch a comprehensive tender offer to acquire the core business divisions of the Zhou Group. The announcement was meticulously worded, detailing the acquisition plan and expressing confidence in the Zhou Group's assets and technology, but everyone understood the underlying reality. This is far more than just a business merger. This was an open, merciless act of revenge. The once untouchable crown prince of the Zhou family was cornered at the edge of a cliff by the fiancé he had callously discarded, using the most corporate, most legal, and most humiliating means possible. When Zhou Songjin saw the announcement in his office, he smashed his computer screen on the spot, his face turned deathly pale, his body trembled uncontrollably, and at last, he understood completely. He lost more than just a fiancé, he had provoked an avenger who had crawled back from hell. Consumed by boundless hatred, determined to annihilate him and everything he held dear, both he and his so-called pure love became the biggest laughingstock of high society, and his empire, under my icy gaze, was teetering on the brink of collapse, heading toward its final doom. Chapter 8. The solemn courtroom was adorned with the national emblem hanging high above. Shen Qianli stood in the defendant's dock, clad in prison garb. Stripped of the audacity she once displayed when seizing the microphone to declare war, and devoid of the pitiable charm she projected during the live broadcast, her face was sallow, her eyes sunken and vacant, resembling a withered flower completely drained of all moisture. The prosecutor, with resounding and forceful words, read the indictment, enumerating her crimes one by one, piece by piece. Taking advantage of their position, they repeatedly embezzled substantial funds from the Zhou Group. Driven by personal vendetta, they fabricated facts and openly disseminated a large amount of false information online, maliciously defaming the victim Zhong Lingjia. The circumstances are severe, and the impact is extremely damaging. They fabricated evidence and made false accusations in an attempt to subject others to criminal prosecution, with the evidence being overwhelming and irrefutable. The defense attorney's arguments appeared feeble and unconvincing, with a solemn expression. The judge pronounced the verdict in court. The defendant, Shen Qianli, is found guilty of embezzlement of public funds and sentenced to 8 years in prison, guilty of defamation and sentenced to 3 years in prison, guilty of false accusation and framing, sentenced to 2 years in prison. For multiple offenses, the combined sentence is 12 years of imprisonment. 12 years. Upon hearing the number, Shen Qianli shuddered violently, as if all her bones had been instantly drained away. Collapsing limply before being firmly held up by the bailiffs on either side, she lifted her head, her face a mask of sheer terror and unhinged madness. Her eyes swept over the judge, then the cold, contemptuous faces in the gallery, before she suddenly erupted into a hysterical shriek. "No, you can't convict me. This was true love. Song Jin and I are genuinely in love." Her voice was shrill and distorted, grotesquely out of place and absurd in the solemn silence of the courtroom. "You ordinary people have no idea what love is. True love is not a crime, it's not a crime," she thrashed wildly, her hair disheveled and eyes wide with madness, screaming the long discredited true love theory over and over. Order in the court. The judge slammed the gavel down hard, but Shen Qianli had completely lost control, trapped in the delusions she'd spun and the crushing blow she'd received. The bailiffs didn't hesitate any longer. With expressionless faces, they hauled the raving woman from the defendant's stand and dragged her away to where she belonged. Her piercing shrieks of bitter resentment and unwillingness gradually faded beyond the courthouse's side door. The slogan of true love ultimately became the most ironic funeral dirge accompanying her journey to prison. Social death, utter destruction. She received them all, every single one, without exception. The corporate battlefield may lack gunpowder smoke, but it's no less brutal. Zhong Group's takeover battle for Zhou Corporation's core business proceeded with remarkable smoothness. Having lost credibility, support, and financial backing, Zhou Songjin stood utterly defenseless against Zhong's aggressive assault backed by massive capital and precise strategy. Several former partners of Zhou Corporation, recognizing the shifting tides, promptly switched allegiance and chose to collaborate with Zhong Group. Within Zhou Corporation, morale plummeted as capable executives jumped ship one after another. While those who remained were all pursuing their own agendas. Everyone kicks a man when he's down. In just a few short months, the once mighty business empire of the Zhou family crumbled before Zhong Capital, led by me, with its core businesses stripped away and swallowed up entirely. Zhou Songjin, the once arrogant business prodigy, lost everything: corporate control and buried under massive debt, mansions, luxury cars, designer watches. All the trappings of his former status were gradually auctioned off to settle his debts. Like a stray dog, he was ruthlessly cast out from that glittering world of opulence. No one knew exactly where he had gone, until one day, grainy paparazzi photos surfaced anonymously on a local gossip forum. The photo is set against the backdrop of a dusty construction site, a man in tattered camouflage, with disheveled gray hair and a stooped frame, struggles to lift a heavy concrete block onto a cart. His face, weathered by sweat, grime, and the passage of time, appears aged and destitute, yet one can still faintly recognize him as Zhou Songjin, the once charismatic president of Zhou Corporation. The poster captioned, "Ran into ex-president Zhou, looks like he's working construction to pay off debts, TSK, how fortunes change." The comment section instantly blew up with responses. "Holy crap, that's really him, how did he get so old? Serves him right, he was blind to dump Miss Zhong for that trash. What goes around comes around." From domineering CEO to manual laborer, that's a fall from grace even novels wouldn't dare write. Just a bystander here, but this seems pretty rough. He had it coming. Did he ever consider the consequences when he let Shen Qianli slander Miss Zhong? Serves him right. I heard he's drowning in debt. Probably won't be able to recover from this in his lifetime. Now that's what I call keeping it real. haha, mockery, ridicule, schadenfreude, all sorts of comments filled the air. Zhou Songjin, along with his so-called true love fiasco, became the city's go-to cautionary tale and object of ridicule in everyday conversation. Time flowed on, the years passed by. Under my leadership, Zhongshe Group not only weathered the storm but, through a deep partnership with Noah Group and the successful acquisition of Zhou Corporation's core business, which brought technological integration and market expansion, reached unprecedented heights, becoming an industry titan of immense influence. As for me, Zhong Lingjia, I am no longer that so-and-so's fiancé who had to depend on others and constantly watch their expressions. I am the helm of the Zhong Group, the acclaimed young entrepreneur gracing the covers of business magazines. A presence that commands respect through my own capabilities and determination. The end. Story 2. Lu Zhili threatened me with my parents' jobs to force me to donate a kidney to his white moonlight. The man smiled gently. Wife, do you want to see your parents sleeping on the streets? I finally compromised. After coming out of the operating room, I asked him for a divorce. On the day Lu Zhili officially announced his relationship with his white moonlight, I died in a plane accident, so I was reborn back to when I was 17 years old. I no longer pestered Lu Zhili. I stayed away from him and his white moonlight. Then I found Song Pei, who would become a business tycoon in the future but was just a poor student at that time. I clung to him in advance and kept building up my favorability in front of him, all just to ask him to take me to make money together in the future. Song Pei was afraid of being bullied and always clung to me pitifully and helplessly, but later I caught him with blood all over his hands. He almost beat the senior who confessed to me to death. 1. It took me 3 minutes to realize that I had been reborn 6 years ago. This year, I was a sophomore in high school, 17 years old. Hey, Jinan, what are you standing there for? It's your turn to speak. The president of the student union shouted my name loudly from the stage. I realized that I had returned to the day of the art festival's host election. The male host was decided to be Lu Zhili. I was competing with his white moonlight, Shening, for the position of female host. When I was making my last speech to canvass for votes, Shening was suddenly hit by a falling light bulb from the ceiling. Several bloodstains were cut on her neck by the fragments of the lamp tube. Lu Zhili ran onto the stage, picked up Shening, and left, because she withdrew from the election halfway. I was directly appointed as the female host, but on the day of the art festival, Lu Zhili cut my dress backstage. I tightly grasped the hem of the skirt and said in a hoarse voice, the incident where Shening was hit by the lamp was not done by me. He played with the folding knife in his hand with a half smile. Who knows, after all, it's well known that you can't stand her, even if it wasn't you. Consider this as a warning to you this time. Listen up, don't mess with Shening in the future. I had to hastily put on an ill-fitting dress and go on stage to host. But I was still affected by Lu Zhili, and my state was not good throughout the whole process. As a result, I was reprimanded by the student union for 2 hours after it was over. 2. I woke up from my memories. I looked up at the lamp above Shenying's head not far away. It was already swaying precariously. Without thinking too much, I ran over and pushed Shening away. The next second, the lamp tube fell and exploded on the ground. As soon as I reached out and touched Shenying's arm, I was suddenly pulled away, and fell back to the ground again. Lu Zhili put one arm around Shening, his eyes cold. Try touching her again. My knee was scraped, and blood oozed out. I couldn't help but let out a soft hiss. Someone around hesitated and said, Brother Ji, it seems there's a misunderstanding. Jinan pushed Shening away to prevent the lamp tube from hitting her. Lu Zhili's eyes showed a slight daze. After being reborn, I didn't want to say a word to him. I propped myself up on the ground and stood up. I looked at the president of the student union. I give up the election. I need to deal with the wound, so I won't make the last speech. Everyone opened their mouths in surprise, as if they couldn't believe that I would give up the opportunity to be on stage with Lu Zhili. The president replied a beat slower. Okay, then be careful. When I left, rubbing my knee, I heard the continuous discussions behind me. Damn. She's giving up out of anger because Brother Ji is protecting Shening, right? Obviously, but it's good that Brother Ji can have 2 days of peace, otherwise, she's like a tail, extremely annoying. 2 days. I bet she won't be able to help but look for Brother Ji this afternoon. I sighed silently. It seems that I was really infatuated in the past, which led everyone to have such a stereotype of me. 3. In my previous life, after getting married, Lu Zhili threatened me with my parents' jobs to donate a kidney to Shening. He affectionately rubbed the diamond ring on my knuckles, and slowly warned me, everything in this house is premarital property, wife. If you try to take it to support your parents, remember to be prepared for them to be sued by the Liu family. Actually, even if my parents lost their jobs, the family's savings would be enough. But Liu Zhili's assistant hinted to me, for Miss Shen, the boss will spare no expense. If you don't want your parents to encounter fraud or be blackmailed with exorbitant amounts, it's best to agree to donate the kidney as soon as possible. This matter has always been a psychological shadow for me, so in this new life, making money is listed as the most important thing for me, and I need to make a lot of money. Only then will I not be easily threatened, only then will I have the right to refuse. I was thinking as I walked, until I passed by the bulletin board. I saw Song Pei's photo in the scholarship section. The boy had a handsome face, and there was an almost indifferent stillness in his eyes. He was very different from what he would look like 6 years later. I remembered the media's evaluation of him that year. He single-handedly built a new business empire and is an unparalleled existence among the new generation of business tycoons. 4. At this time, in everyone's eyes, Song Pei was just a withdrawn and extremely good scoring poor student in our class. I planned to take a shortcut, cling to Song Pei's thigh in advance and keep building up my favorability in front of him, so that I could ask him to take me to make money together in the future. After applying the medicine, I returned to the classroom before the end of the lunch break. My eyes swept over Song Pei's seat. I pursed my lips and ultimately didn't say anything. Showing excessive kindness for no reason would probably make me seem like a bad person. Until the class dinner on Friday evening, I casually sat next to Song Pei as if by accident. I stole glances at him from time to time, so focused that I only noticed Liu Zhili staring at me for a long time. When I looked up, I looked over with a puzzled look in my eyes. He coldly moved his eyes away. Is he crazy? Liu Zhili and those rich young masters always looked down on Song Pei, even during a meal. They deliberately picked on him. A brother of Liu Zhili spun the dining table turntable. Pointedly, he said, "Everyone, eat to your heart's content. The owner of this restaurant knows me, so he's willing to give us this low price that we usually don't get. Otherwise, for this restaurant, some people usually can hardly afford to eat here." He stopped spinning. A plate full of peppers stopped in front of Song Pei. He smiled heartily at Song Pei. "Student Song, don't be polite, eat." Song Pei had a weak stomach. He had a recurrence of stomach problems twice during class and was sent to the hospital. He couldn't possibly not know that. Obviously, he was deliberately humiliating Song Pei. Song Pei didn't pick up his chopsticks. Everyone around the dining table was quiet. Those who couldn't stand it just gritted their teeth and didn't dare to speak. After all, these young masters were not to be trifled with. However, a person who has died once has a different mindset. I reached out and turned the turntable, returning a smile to the boy. "Thank you, then I won't be polite." I turned a bowl of Chinese yam and pork rib soup in front of myself. Without looking up, I picked up Song Pei's bowl, filled it with a full bowl of ribs, and put it back in front of him. "Sorry, I took the wrong bowl." Song Pei looked at me and said nothing. Under the complicated gazes of everyone, I filled another bowl for myself. Then I took a small sip. I looked up and smiled at the boy. "It really tastes different from what I've had in ordinary restaurants. You were actually able to lower the price for us." I made an exaggerated sound of admiration. "You're really amazing." The boy blushed from being praised. "Ah, it's nothing. If you like it, drink more. Ask the waiter to add more when you're done. I'll pay." Sure enough, child psychology is most suitable for such an idiot. The monitor timely enlivened the atmosphere. Everyone started to eat. Song Pei didn't touch the soup. I smoothly started a conversation. "Don't you like ribs? Which dish do you want to eat? I'll turn it for you." Song Pei didn't answer. His eyes moved from the soup to my face, examining me. There was a faint sneer in his eyes. "Just say it. What's your purpose?" The big shot saw through my kindness at a glance. With a bit of shame from being exposed, I said sincerely, "My physics is too poor. I want to ask you to help me with tutoring. As a reward, I can bring you breakfast every day." Song Pei smiled faintly, but it was cold enough. I spoke before he could open his mouth. "You think I must have some other purpose and don't believe it's that simple, right?" The boy's eyes were as dark as lacquer. I shook my head and smiled, not being affected at all. "It doesn't matter. I will prove it to you." Song Pei tightly pursed his lips and still said nothing, but a moment later, he drank that bowl of soup. 5. After the dinner, I said goodbye to Song Pei. I walked home alone along the tree-shaded path. A black car slowly stopped beside me. The rear window rolled down. revealing Xining and Lu Zhili. Xining greeted me with a smile. Jinan, do you need us to give you a ride? I refused. My home is very close. Her eyes became meaningful. Is it so close and Song Pei still doesn't see you off? Oh, he's really an incompetent boyfriend. Unlike Aji, he always asks the driver to take me home first. Lu Zhili was sitting on the inside. Half of his face was hidden in the shadows, and his expression was unclear. I didn't care whether she and Lu Zhili were together or not, but I absolutely couldn't tolerate rumors. Song Pei still disliked me now. If unfounded rumors spread because of me, he would definitely be angry. I stared at Xining, my voice a bit cold. Where did you see that Song Pei is my boyfriend? If he's not your boyfriend, why did you step in? It was Lu Zhili who answered. He got out of the car, slammed the car door, and walked in front of me, his gaze fixed on the corner of my mouth. If he's not your boyfriend, could you chat with him so happily? Do you know how many times you smiled at him tonight? His anger came out of nowhere, but instinctively, I wanted to stay away from Lu Zhili. Song Pei and I are just ordinary classmates. I just couldn't stand you targeting him tonight. After saying that, I directly walked around him and left in a hurry. I didn't know how far I had walked. Suddenly, there was a rapid sound of footsteps behind me. Almost at the same time, my arm was grabbed. I turned around and met Lu Zhili's eyes. For a moment, I had the illusion of being back in my previous life, being locked in a villa by him and forced to donate a kidney. I was so scared that I let out a scream. Lu Zhili frowned. It's me. I struggled desperately. Let me go. Lu Zhili pulled me into his arms and gently stroked my back. His tone was gentle as if he was coaxing someone. Okay, don't be afraid. It's me. I'm Lu Zhili. I desperately pushed his shoulders and cried anxiously, let me go, let me go. Lu Zhili's body froze for a moment, and then he slowly let go. I immediately took several steps back until my back touched the wall before I felt a little more secure. The night was thick, and I couldn't see the emotions in his eyes. I only heard him ask in confusion, Jinan, are you afraid of me? I raised the back of my hand to wipe away my tears. Please stay away from me in the future. I don't like you anymore now, and I don't want to have any intersection with you. Jinan, Lu Zhili interrupted me, with a cold arc on his lips, with an extremely arrogant look in his eyes. He asked, what are you being self-indulgent about? Has it ever been me who took the initiative to provoke you? I endured my sobs and nodded seriously. Please rest assured, I will never pester you again. After a long time, Lu Zhili casually placed the plastic bag in his hand on the lid of the trash can next to him. You'd better do what you say. It wasn't until he walked away that I stepped forward to see what was in the plastic bag. There were several boxes of ointment for external injuries. I moved my fingertips. I gently stroked the scar on my knee, but it had clearly already healed. 6. After that day, Lu Zhili completely treated me like air. I let out a sigh of relief. I could focus more on building up my favorability in front of Song Pei. He got first place in the exam again, and I stuffed a warm milk tea into his hand. Wow, Song Pei, you're really amazing. You've always been the top student in the grade and have never dropped down. Song Pei twirled a pen with his fingertips, with a half smile. Do you think this kind of talk will work on me? Child psychology really only applies to idiots. I didn't admit it. With a serious face, I said, I really think you're amazing. Song Pei glanced at me a few times indifferently. For the sake of making a lot of money in the future, I wasn't discouraged. I stewed soup to nourish his stomach and brought it to school in a thermos. When the head teacher praised him in class, I would be the first to applaud for him. Even when he worked part-time in a coffee shop on weekends, I would go to accompany him. Song Pei seemed to be desensitized to me. He didn't reject me following him around often. In the coffee shop, another part-time boy shook his head with emotion. Song Pei, stop being coy. Such a cute girl is chasing you. Why don't you agree? Song Pei lowered his eyes and was putting ice cubes into a cup. As if he didn't hear, I was stunned. I looked up and stuttered to explain to the boy, I'm not chasing Song Pei, we're just friends. The ice cube Song Pei picked up slipped and fell to the ground. I turned my head and met his dark and unclear eyes. I blinked hesitantly. Do you also think I'm chasing you? Song Pei bent down to pick up the ice cube and threw it into the trash can. He calmly denied it. No, I never thought that. He methodically ground the coffee, as if the strong emotions that had briefly shown just now were just my illusion. 7. Although Song Pei didn't think too much, but being misunderstood as liking him twice in a row also made me start to reflect on whether I had been building up my favorability too frequently. If Song Pei heard rumors about me and him again, he might instead get tired of me. I no longer brought soup for Songpei. I also didn't look for him or stick to him frequently. Several times after class, I would inadvertently meet Songpei's eyes. Across several rows of distance, he looked at me quietly. His thin figure made him seem indescribably frail. It made me unbearably soft-hearted, so I planned to go to the coffee shop where he worked part-time to accompany him this Saturday. However, Songpei's vulnerability didn't allow me to wait until Saturday. During the free activity time of the physical education class, Songpei sat alone in the pavilion, pressing his stomach with his hand. Even though I was standing a bit far away, I could see his trembling shoulders. I quickly ran over and squatted in front of him. Songpei, what's wrong with you? Is your stomach problem acting up again? The boy's face was pale, and he tightly pursed his lips as if enduring great pain. He softly let out a leaning on the pillar. He staggered to his feet. I'm going to the infirmary first. I'll help you go there. Songpei dodged the hand I reached out. No need. It's too much trouble for you. In a hurry, I directly pressed his arm on my shoulder. What are you talking about, Songpei? Why are you being so polite to me all of a sudden? Songpei lowered his eyes slightly and said softly, you already dislike me, don't you? He gently brushed away my hand and pressed his own stomach. Jinan, I don't need to be pitied. It's just an ordinary stomach problem. I won't die from it. I can go to the infirmary by myself. You can continue to avoid suspicion. Songpei was in so much pain that he couldn't stand steadily. After saying that, he slumped back onto the bench, his forehead covered in fine sweat. I immediately stepped forward to support him and coaxed him incoherently. I don't dislike you. Let me help you go there. Okay, please don't be stubborn now. The boy didn't move. Songpei, can you be more obedient? I was so anxious that I was on the verge of crying. Finally, he raised his hand and placed it on me. And his head also rested on my neck. He murmured hoarsely, it hurts so much. The shell of his forced indifference cracked, revealing a trace of grievance. I felt too guilty to say anything. Almost half of Songpei's body was leaning on me, but somehow, it didn't feel very heavy. When we arrived at the infirmary, there was already another group of people inside. The school doctor was giving instructions to Lu Zhili, who was surrounded in the middle. The injury on your wrist is quite serious. You won't be able to play basketball recently. I'm going to that building to get the ointment for you now. Wait for me for a while. Lu Zhili indifferently withdrew his gaze that was looking at us. Okay, I helped Songpei sit down in the place furthest away from them, but we still couldn't avoid being talked about. Hey, what's the situation with these two people? Didn't Jinan like brother Ji to death? Is she changing her target now? Songpei's lips were dry and pale. I asked him in a low voice, do you want to drink some hot water? He nodded slightly. I fetched a cup of hot water and placed it in his palm. But Songpei didn't have much strength in his hand and couldn't hold the cup. I sighed and took the water cup and brought it to Songpei's mouth to feed him. Damn, she's even feeding him. She's never been this good to brother Ji. You can tell that she really likes our poor student who's a top student. Suddenly, there was a sound of a chair being thrown on the ground behind us. Lu Zhili left the infirmary expressionlessly and slammed the door so hard that it made a deafening noise. The doorframe trembled and bounced back to its original position. Lu Zhili's brothers looked at each other. Why is brother Ji suddenly angry? Is it because he didn't make that last three-pointer? That makes sense. 8. Not long after, only Songpei and I were left in the infirmary. He seemed to be feeling a bit better than half an hour ago. Playing with the empty paper cup in his hand, he gave a meaningless smile. So you like someone like Lu Zhili? I really can't compare with him, and it's no wonder you try to avoid me, being misunderstood as liking someone like me. He curved his lips, and it was hard to tell the hint of self-mockery in his understated tone. It's really disgusting. I didn't speak for a long time. Songpei's expression was calm, but he was gripping the paper cup in his hand tighter and tighter. He almost crumpled it into a ball. Oh, so he's asunder a puppy. I reached out and cupped his face in my hands. I leaned in and tilted my head to observe him carefully. Jinan, shoo, don't talk. Let me see what's so disgusting. I pretended to be serious. You're clearly more good-looking than Lu Zhili. You're also better at your studies than him. And your personality is better too. The boy's obscure eyes locked tightly onto me. A stubborn puppy needs to be praised to help regain his confidence. I let go of him. Just like teaching a child. Songpei, don't say such things about yourself in the future. He drooped his eyelids and said softly, but you suddenly ignored me. I'm sorry, I explained sullenly. I thought you disliked others misunderstanding our relationship, so I tried to avoid suspicion. Songpei naturally leaned his head on my shoulder. I only dislike it when you ignore me. I couldn't help but freeze. He leaned on me on the way here out of necessity, but this situation now, could it be too intimate? Songpei noticed the sudden change in my body. He looked up and said, I'm in pain, and I can't sit still properly. Nan, if I lean on you like this, will you dislike me? I was as stiff as a scarecrow, but I was afraid that refusing would hurt his self-esteem. So I still shook my head casually. No, of course not. It's normal for friends to lean on each other's shoulders, right? He curved his lips and leaned back on my left shoulder. 9. I looked at the big bag of stomach medicine that the school doctor prescribed for Songpei with a headache. I had almost nursed Songpei's stomach problem back to health. Now it's back to square one. He can't take care of himself at all when he's away from me. At noon, I went to the cafeteria with him for a meal. 2 canteen ants pushing a food cart walked past us from behind, clicking their tongues constantly. Do kids nowadays have psychological problems? This morning, I saw a really good-looking boy put a large spoonful of chili peppers into his porridge. I saw that he was sweating so much from the discomfort, but he kept drinking it. It was really scary to watch. Songpei stood beside me, his eyebrows and eyes showing no emotion. I casually reminded him, you have a weak stomach, so avoid spicy food. He raised the back of his hand and gently rubbed my side face. There was a faint, casual look in his eyebrows and eyes. Don't worry, I never touched chili peppers. 10. Songpei took the initiative to offer to help me with my physics, to make the tutoring more convenient. When we were reassigned seats again not long after, Songpei and I would become desk mates, but at the same time, Lu Jili was also assigned to sit in the row behind me, during the self-study class. I dragged my 5-year college entrance examination 3-year simulation book over and asked in a low voice, Songpei, do you have time to explain this question to me? He wrote out the detailed solution process on the draft paper. I immediately understood it and gave a small smile. Thank you, can you be quieter? Lu Jili suddenly spoke up, not bothering to lower his voice. The whole class looked over. He threw the pen on the desk. With his arms crossed and leaning against the back of the chair, his face was cold and expressionless. Is the self-study class for you to explain questions? I had already lowered my voice to the minimum. Moreover, Songpei hadn't even opened his mouth. Besides, there had always been a continuous murmur of discussions in the class. It was obvious that Lu Jili was deliberately picking a fight. I stared at him, holding back my anger. The atmosphere instantly became tense. Songpei, on the other hand, maintained his usual calm demeanor. He said gently and politely to Lu Jili, don't make things difficult for Nan. Classmate, I apologize to you. Can we let this go? Lu Jili sneered and gave him a disdainful look. Who the hell are you? I tugged at Songpei's sleeve. Why are you apologizing? You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't even say anything. Songpei comforted me in a nonchalant tone. I'm used to it. Apologizing can solve the problem, and there's no need to make a big deal out of it. He casually raised his eyebrows. It's not like we have to change seats. Songpei's casual words reminded me, Lu Jili couldn't stand us. If we keep sitting together, he will definitely keep targeting us in the future. It's better to separate and sit apart now. I grabbed Songpei, who was about to apologize. Let's pack our things. We'll change seats after class. I snorted softly. Let's stay away from him. Lu Jili got even angrier for no apparent reason. He suddenly stood up, and the chair was knocked over. His gaze locked tightly onto me, and there was a storm suppressed in his eyes. Gee, Nan, I was completely confused. Lu Jili's deskmate's gaze shifted back and forth between us. Suddenly, he let out 2 exclamations and apologized repeatedly. Sorry, Brother Ji has just been in a bad mood recently. He definitely didn't mean to target you guys on purpose. Why change seats? It hasn't been long since the last seat change. If you apply to change seats again now, the homeroom teacher won't agree either. After saying that, he quickly picked up Lu Jili's chair and tugged at his sleeve. Lu Jili sat back down. His expression was gloomy, but he didn't say anything more. His deskmate patted his chest and promised, if something like this happens again today, I definitely won't stop you if you want to change seats. Okay. I thought about it and felt that it was acceptable, but I still turned to Songpei first to ask for his opinion. Songpei slowly retracted his gaze that had been fixed on Lu Jili's deskmate's face. His smile was faint. Sure. He casually twirled the pen placed on the test paper. Why not? 11. The group around Lu Jili had an inexplicable amount of malice towards Songpei. During the long break between classes, they were tossing a ball back and forth in the classroom. A few of them exchanged glances and purposefully threw the ball towards Song Pei, who was sitting beside me. Lu Zhili leaned against the door, watching coldly. Almost instinctively, I stood in front of Song Pei. In that instant, all I thought about was not wanting him to get hurt. It wasn't any other action with a specific purpose. The wind brought by the incoming basketball rushed straight towards my face, but a second before it hit me, Lu Zhili intercepted it. He threw the ball to the ground. There was an obvious look of on his face. Lu Zhili grabbed me and roughly pulled me out of the classroom. Let me go, Lu Zhili. At the end of the corridor, he let go of my hand, and I stumbled 2 steps and barely managed to stand still. My anger surged to my head. I raised my hand and slapped him without hesitation, my voice trembling with anger. What are you going crazy for? Did I provoke you again? Since I was reborn, I've been trying my best to stay away from him. Why can't I still get rid of him? Lu Zhili stepped towards me aggressively. What were you doing just now? If I hadn't intercepted that ball, your nose bridge would have been broken. Do you know that, Jinan? What exactly is your relationship with Song Pei that's worth you protecting him like this? He pressed me against the wall, and a low pressure like an approaching storm emanated from him. Have you forgotten that you originally liked me? Huh? I wasn't surprised at all by Lu Zhili's sudden outburst of anger, obviously. He just couldn't stand the fact that someone who had always been chasing after him suddenly stopped. I didn't have the patience to explain to him. I lowered my head and bit hard on the wrist that was holding me. Taking advantage of the moment he loosened his grip, I pushed him away and ran away. 10. I was prepared to be targeted by Lu Zhili. But he took a leave of absence without any warning. He took a leave for a whole week. When I saw him again, his face was sickly pale, his pitch-black eyes were as still as stagnant water. It was even more terrifying than his crazy appearance a week ago. Our eyes met. I couldn't help but think of what Lu Zhili would look like 6 years later. Sweat seeped out from my palms. Throughout the morning break, he sat quietly behind me, all the way until school was over at noon. Song Pei was called to the head teacher's office by the head teacher and talked for most of the class, and he still hadn't come back after school. I went to the cafeteria alone and, by the way, packed some light dishes for Song Pei, but just as I walked out of the teaching building, a hand reached out from behind and covered my mouth, and I was carried to the alley behind the teaching building. Almost no one passed by here. Lu Zhili bent his knee and pressed against my legs, pinning me against the wall. One hand grabbed both of my wrists, the other hand covered the lower half of my face. I couldn't move and couldn't make a sound. I could only stare at him furiously. Lu Zhili didn't care at all. He bent down and buried his forehead in my neck. He took a breath almost greedily. Nan, I'm back. I only felt a sudden chill rise from my back and instantly spread throughout my body. My blood seemed to freeze. Lu Zhili in his youth had never called me Nan. He raised his head again. My eyes were fixed in surprise. In his eyes, there was the paranoia and morbidity that belonged only to Lu Zhili 6 years later. Last time, we got married 4 years later. This time, let's do it earlier. Shall we get engaged right after graduation? He calmly said crazy words. Or, we can directly go abroad to get the marriage certificate after graduation. The word marriage forcefully dragged me back to that suffocating memory of married life. I stared at Lu Zhili's still young face in front of me. I dissuaded him incoherently. Shining isn't sick yet. You can take better care of her and take her for regular checkups and such. Lu Zhili, please let me go. Okay, you will definitely be able to find another kidney source. Just let me go this time, can't you? My speech speed got faster and faster, and in the end, I almost shouted it out. Lu Zhili remained unmoved. I've explained to you more than once. I have no feelings for Shining at all. I only like you. I forced you to donate a kidney because she saved my life when we were young. I owe her my life. I didn't believe his words at all. No one likes someone in this way. I pushed him away when he was distracted and took the opportunity to run outside. But just as I ran onto the main road, he caught up with me and tightly grabbed my wrist again. Nan, listen to me. You're hurting her. Song Pei happened to run into us when he came back from the office building. He unceremoniously swatted away Lu Zhili's hand and stood in front of me. The moment Lu Zhili saw him, his anger flared up. Get lost. Lu Zhili grabbed Song Pei by the collar and threw him out. After taking several steps back, Song Pei's head hit the half-built steel frame beside him. Song Pei let out a muffled groan and slid down the wall, leaning against it. Song Pei, I threw myself in front of him. He had a cut on his forehead, and a few drops of blood were flowing down. Song Pei seemed a bit dizzy, and his eyelids were gradually closing. I called his name in a trembling voice. Don't fall asleep, we're going to the hospital right now. He propped himself up on the frame and stood up, leaning on me. Blood dripped onto the ground, and he still had the leisure to curve his lips and smile. Don't be afraid, I won't pass out. He could barely stand steadily himself. Yet he still pulled me behind him. He glanced at Lu Zhili. I still have to protect you. My heart seemed to skip a beat, but because the scene was too chaotic, I didn't have time to feel it carefully. When I supported Song Pei and walked past Lu Zhili towards the school gate, after a long silence, he finally spoke. I didn't push him hard, he bumped into it himself. Nan Nan. He raised his hand as if to hold mine. I dodged and supported Song Pei to walk around him. Lu Zhili's movement paused, as if he was nailed in midair. Is it really that hard to trust me just once? His voice was so soft that it melted into the wind, carrying a hint of helplessness. It seemed that he was always asking me to believe him. In my previous life, he made me believe that he only liked me. Then, in order to make me donate a kidney to Shening, he pushed me to the verge of a mental breakdown several times. 11. In the hospital consultation room, Song Pei had a bandage wrapped around his forehead and was waiting to get a tetanus shot. I kept chattering and giving him instructions. Song Pei, thank you for protecting me like this, but Lu Zhili has learned martial arts. You can't beat him. Don't do this again in the future. He won't hit me, but he'll knock you out with one punch. Song Pei seemed to have heard some absurd joke. What? I can't beat him. I shook his shoulders and said righteously, it's true. You saw how far he pushed you without even using much force. If he used his full strength, you wouldn't be able to resist at all. Song Pei stumbled for a moment and continued to argue. I tripped over the steel bar. I said helplessly, okay. Song Pei grabbed me as I was about to leave. You don't believe me? I fell silent and looked into his eyes. I expressed my mixed feelings with my eyes. Don't you know how weak you are? You couldn't even stand steadily when you had a stomachache. You fell down with just a gentle push. You're so tall for nothing. I feel like you can't even beat me. But when I opened my mouth, I still took into account his self-esteem as a boy. No, I believe you. I'll go get your medicine. You wait here for the injection. Song Pei let out a disbelieving snort and was about to say something more. I hurried out. As I walked, I sighed. I thought Song Pei was different. In fact, he's also very naive and likes to be brave, but surprisingly, I don't dislike it. I even find it a bit endearing with the contrast. 12. Lu Zhili was like a persistent ghost. He blocked my way after school. I rubbed my eyebrows impatiently. What on earth do you want? I want you to stay away from Song Pei. Lu Zhili took a step closer to me and looked at me firmly, saying, he has ulterior motives for you. Lu Zhili didn't hide his possessiveness at all. I suddenly thought that he might really like me a bit, but, Lu Zhili, I seem to have forgotten to tell you something. What? Afraid that he wouldn't believe me, I deliberately enunciated each word clearly and firmly. I drew a clear line between him and me with one sentence. I stopped liking you a long time ago. The warm yellow light of the street lamp couldn't even shine into the boy's dark eyes. He turned his face away and said in a cold tone, I didn't come back to life just to hear you say these things. I wasn't reborn just to be threatened by you to donate a kidney again. Lu Zhili's jaw tensed, and he said sternly, I won't do that again. Is this thing just impossible to let go of? Right. He stepped towards me aggressively until my back was against the wall. What do I have to do for you to act like it never happened and start over with me? Tell me. With nowhere left to retreat, I actually calmed down. I stood on tiptoe, grabbed his collar, and pulled him down to bend over. Lu Zhili, if you don't let me go, I'll die with you. Anyway, I've already died once. I looked into his eyes. It was on the day when your relationship with Shening was exposed and made it to the trending searches. If the result of being reborn is to return to the track of my previous life and suffer again, then I'd rather die, and I want to drag Lu Zhili to die with me. I let go of him, pushed him hard against the wall behind me, and turned around to leave. When I completely walked out of the alley, a hoarse voice sounded behind me. That was just the media hyping it up. Then he laughed and said, forget it, it's quite boring anyway. Anyway, no matter what I say, you won't believe me. The sound of footsteps got closer. Lu Zhili walked past me without looking sideways and left. When his tall and straight back completely disappeared from my sight, I let out a sigh of relief. He let me go. 13. After that day, Lu Zhili went back to the state of ignoring me as if I didn't exist. The date of the art festival was getting closer and closer, and the strong atmosphere filled every corner of the school. It temporarily suppressed the heavy atmosphere brought about by the upcoming college entrance examination. Lu Jili and Shining went in and out together every day, holding the host scripts, and Song Pei was also forcefully signed up for a piano performance by the head teacher. He was just as good-looking as Lu Jili, but influenced by factors such as his personality and family background, he wasn't as popular as Lu Jili. However, on the stage of the art festival, under the spotlight, the dancing light and shadow fell on his slightly drooping eyelashes, his delicate and superior side face, and his fingertips on the black and white keys. Song Pei got a chance to be recognized anew. Damn it. Why didn't I realize that the top student in our grade was so handsome before? The male protagonist in a novel has stepped into reality. I'm changing my favorite idol. Goodbye, Lu Jili. You guys are going too far. I still think Lu Jili is a bit more handsome. Song Pei suddenly became the center of attention. When his performance was almost over, I ran to the backstage with a bouquet of blue and white flowers and waited for him. During that time, Lu Jili appeared behind me holding a microphone. Classmate. Excuse me. His voice was cold and distant. The place where I was standing was blocking his way to wait for his turn. Holding the large bouquet of flowers, I clumsily took a few steps back to make way for him. Lu Jili walked past me expressionlessly. We were like two strangers who had never known each other. When Song Pei came down from the stage, I was just about to step forward with the flowers. A girl trotted past me. She was also looking for Song Pei. Classmate, can I add you on WeChat? I'm also learning the piano. Can I consult you if I have something I don't understand? The girl was trying hard to hold back her shyness and didn't dare to look at Song Pei. I blinked quietly. I was quite tactful and stopped to wait aside. The feeling of loss was like the bubbling in a boiling kettle, making the lid creak. It was so noisy that it made people feel restless. Song Pei refused her very neatly. Sorry. The girl bit her lip lightly. Why? He raised his eyes and suddenly looked at me, as if thinking about his words. He slowly said, because he's poor. Shining stood not far away and chimed in casually. Besides going to school, he's always doing part-time jobs. Where does he have the time to teach you the piano? Lu Jili beside her was reciting the script as if it had nothing to do with him. The girl furrowed her brows and asked Song Pei for confirmation. Is that true? Song Pei drooped his eyes, hiding all his emotions. His Adam's apple rolled slightly, and he let out a soft laugh. Really? I forgot to mention that I'm a poor student. He pulled the corners of his lips, nodded, and his voice also dropped. I almost forgot that I'm a poor student. I stuffed the flowers into Song Pei's arms and smiled happily. I tried to spread my good mood to him. Song Pei, you played super well. Congratulations on the success of your performance. I turned around and aimed at Shining. At least us ordinary people have a healthy body. She stared at me. What do you mean, miss? Have you had regular physical checkups? Are all your indicators normal? For example, is your kidney and other organs healthy? I kindly reminded her. After all, if you get a disease that requires a kidney transplant, it's very likely that even if you have money, you won't be able to find a kidney source. After saying that, I pulled Song Pei and left. I didn't care what expression Lu Jili had. In this life, my parents have been transferred to work in a foreign branch office. He can't threaten me anymore. 14. There were more and more girls pursuing Song Pei, amidst the feeling of annoyance that arose again and again because girls came to chat him up and ask for his contact information. I realized that I had fallen in love with Song Pei, but he seemed to only regard me as his best friend. With the college entrance examination approaching, I could only suppress my secret love for the time being and study hard for the exam. I have to try my best to get into the same school as Song Pei before I can have a chance to pursue him. Fortunately, I hadn't completely forgotten the questions from the college entrance examination in my previous life. I had a deep impression of the Chinese composition, the English composition, and two particularly difficult questions. With this advantage, I successfully got into the same university as Song Pei. After filling out the college application forms, we climbed a mountain together. Just past the halfway point of the mountain, I gradually couldn't keep up with Song Pei's pace and was panting heavily. Song Pei knelt down in front of me. Shall I carry you up? No. I pressed an ice-cold mineral water bottle against my flushed face to cool down. Your physical condition is already weak, and you haven't had a rest during this period when you were doing tutoring. If you carry me, we'll both be exhausted before we reach the top of the mountain. The mineral water bottle in Song Pei's hand, which still had half a bottle of water in it, was suddenly squeezed out of shape. He gave me a sideways look, and his smile was cold. The next second I sensed the danger. He picked me up by the backs of my legs and carried me in his arms. Song-pei, you're being stubborn again. I shook my legs in dissatisfaction. Put me down quickly. The hand that the boy had across my back suddenly loosened a bit. I was so scared that I quickly wrapped my hands around his neck. We were so close that I almost touched his forehead. Song-pei had a lazy smile on his face. Do you still want me to put you down? The glimmers in his eyes made me dazed for a moment. I turned my eyes away awkwardly and whispered my accusation. Song-pei, you've become naughty now. The sun in the afternoon was still very strong. It was so hot that my ears felt like they were about to be cooked. 15. Not only did Song-pei really carry me to the top of the mountain, moreover, he was still breathing relatively steadily. I widened my eyes. Did you keep exercising in the past few months because your self-confidence was hurt by me last time, Song-pei? He didn't seem to want to talk to me and went to the other side to take a look. I found a tree to lean against and sat down to enjoy the cool. Before I could admire the different scenery at the top of the mountain, a sudden sharp pain shot through my neck. The cold and slippery tail of a snake swept across the back of my neck. Ah! Song-pei heard the sound and ran back. The little snake that bit me had just slithered into the grass and run away. I was so scared that I burst into tears, but I still maintained a stiff sitting posture and didn't dare to move. What should we do? Song-pei, could the snake be poisonous? Song-pei squatted in front of me, wiped my tears, and soothed me in a low voice. It's not poisonous, Nan, don't be afraid. I held his hand uneasily. Really, his gaze fixed on the wound on my neck. I couldn't tell what he was thinking. After a long time, he said, of course, it would be safer to suck it out. Song-pei raised his eyes and stared straight at me. Do you need me to do that? I didn't dare to hesitate for too long, for fear that if it was really poisonous, it would spread. Then, be careful, don't swallow it yourself. The area of skin that Song-pei was holding in his mouth was a sensitive part. It felt a bit itchy when his lips rubbed against it, and I instinctively leaned back to avoid it. Song-pei put his hand on the back of my neck and stopped my movement. Don't move. His voice sounded a bit muffled. I don't know how long it took, but I had crumpled the fabric of the windbreaker on his shoulder. Song-pei, isn't it done yet? The head that was pressed against my neck moved slightly, almost, from the moment he let me go until we went down the mountain. I buried the lower half of my face in my collar and was too embarrassed to look up at him. It was only when I got home that I realized a hickey had formed at the wound on my neck. 16. At the end of August, the new semester started for freshmen. While I was waiting for Song-pei at the school gate, I met someone I didn't expect. Lu Zhili stood in front of me, his hand resting on the handle of his suitcase. With a calm expression and indifferent eyebrows, he said, Jinan, I've tried, I can't like anyone else except you. My voice turned cold. I've also said that I don't like you anymore. I know. He pulled my suitcase and walked towards the girls' dormitory. His tone was flat, as if he had already expected this. It doesn't matter, Nan. I'll pursue you again. Lu Zhili walked too fast. With a crossbody bag on my shoulder, I trotted all the way but still couldn't catch up with him. He carried the suitcase and delivered it to the door of my dormitory. I was gasping for breath and too tired to have the energy to scold him for the moment. My other 3 roommates had already arrived. Hello, one of them greeted me. Your boyfriend is really handsome. Is he also a student of our school? Lu Zhili clarified quickly. We're not in a relationship, I'm pursuing her unilaterally. I suppressed my anger and pushed him out of the dormitory building. Lu Zhili, I can tell you clearly now, I don't like you, and I won't like you in the future either. Stop doing these useless things. He pursed his lips tightly. Whether it's useless or not, I have to try to find out. Before I could say anything more, he turned around and went back to his own dormitory building. His back looked a bit thinner. He was surrounded by a gloomy aura. Unlike boys of his age who still had a bit of youthful spirit, Song-pei and I were in the same major. Although Lu Zhili changed schools, he was still studying the same major as in his previous life. During the half-month of military training, Lu Zhili and Song-pei were the 2 freshmen with equally high discussion rates. They were elected as the most handsome guys in their respective departments by the girls, and me. I had an even higher discussion rate than the 2 of them. Jinan. Both of them are chasing you. Who will you choose? If I were you, I'd choose both. Song-pei on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, Lu Zhili on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and both of them can serve me on Sundays. Am I the only one who thinks it's not good to fish for 2 people at the same time? Yes, only you. The 2 guys haven't said anything, but you're talking so much nonsense. I hurriedly stopped the spread of a potential conflict. You seem to have misunderstood. Songpei is not chasing me, he only regards me as a friend. Bullshit, his liking for you couldn't be more obvious. Okay, last time I asked him if he liked Jinan, and he didn't deny it. I looked at the girl who spoke in a daze. The instructor's whistle interrupted my thoughts. Rest time is over, assemble. I stood in the team, but I couldn't concentrate during the morning training. 17. Lu Jili had a high EQ and his attentions were just right. My 3 roommates were quickly won over by him. On the last day of military training, on the way to the cafeteria at noon, the 3 of them took turns to speak well of him. We definitely didn't speak for him just because he gave us Tiffany. Nan, really, Lu Jili is better. Choose him, that's right. He has the 3 qualities of being tall, rich, and handsome. Songpei just lacks the rich part, right? My roommate's voice got lower and lower at the last few words. I thought that if Songpei hadn't been standing right in front of us, she could have listed 100 more advantages of Lu Jili. Songpei half lowered his dim eyes. His calm expression, like still water, somehow made people sense a trace of loneliness. The fragile puppy didn't realize at all that he was so pitiful that it made people feel sorry for him. He still thought he was pretending well. I shook my head at my roommate regretfully. That's really unfortunate. Lu Jili has never been within my options. Because I'm chasing Songpei, my 3 roommates turned into groundhogs, so embarrassed that they almost buried their heads in the ground. Okay, you should go with him quickly. I readily said goodbye. Bye, when you go to eat, don't starve your Tiffany's either. Get out. I bounced up to Songpei. He stared at me intently, as if asking for an explanation for what I had just said. I looked back innocently. I forgot to tell you, I like you. May I ask how I can chase you? Songpei's lips were pursed so tightly that they turned white, and his emotions were clearly on the verge of losing control. I tilted my head and asked dejectedly, why don't you say anything? Is it because there are too many people who like you, and I'm the most ordinary one, not worthy of chasing you? As soon as I finished speaking, I was pulled into his arms. The arm that hugged me trembled slightly. The boy's voice was hoarse. Don't say that, Nan, I'm the one who has never been worthy. Songpei had a repressed personality. If I didn't push him once, he wouldn't come out of his fake protective shell and show a trace of his true emotions. I quietly put my arms around his waist, rubbed against him in his arms, and said in a muffled voice, I say you're worthy, then you are. 18. After getting together with Songpei, he seemed to have developed skin hunger. At night, in a secluded corner of the campus, Songpei held me on his lap, his nose gently rubbing against the side of my neck. Dense kisses moved upward, and he took my earlobe in his mouth. I was worried that someone might pass by. I pushed his shoulder. Songpei, can't we go to a hotel? The arm that was holding me froze. Songpei looked up. The dim light made the surging emotions in his eyes faintly visible. I realized later that he had misunderstood and hurriedly explained, No, I'm just afraid that we'll be seen here. Going to a hotel isn't for you to do something else. Songpei vetoed it. He stroked the back of my ear and lifted my face to kiss me. I won't be able to control myself in a hotel. Don't be afraid, no one comes here. I clung to his shoulders, indulged in his kiss, and slowly closed my eyes. The air was depleted. My lips hurt from being sucked, and Songpei backed away a little. I half opened my eyes. I was stunned. Over Songpei's shoulder, I met Lu Jili's unblinking eyes. Not long after, he lowered his eyes and left silently. I thought that after seeing this scene with his own eyes, he should give up completely, but the next day, he was the same as usual. He asked my roommate to bring me a small cake. What should I do? Nan, he's blocking me downstairs. He said you only like this brand of cake and asked me to make sure to bring it to you. I picked up the cake, ran out of the dormitory, and caught up with Lu Jili, threw it back into his arms. If you pester me one more time, I will definitely call the police and accuse you of sexual harassment. He hooked the corner of his lip self-deprecatingly. Don't you like this bakery's cakes the most? He opened the box. The cakes were in a mess, and the cream was smeared on the box wall. They no longer looked like their original selves, before, when you were angry with me. As long as I brought you this cake when I came back from the company, you would forgive me. He seemed to be talking to himself, speaking with difficulty. Why can't I coax you this time, Lu Jili? I looked calmly at the gloomy boy in front of me. Is it interesting to always live in the past? He always tried to make me recall the memories of falling in love and getting married with him in my previous life. He thought this would make me soft-hearted, but I had already moved on. The memories still existed, but what I had forgotten was the feeling of liking him. 19. After that, Lou Gilly never looked for me again. Every day, he either went racing or flew around the world for fun, but after a certain day, he never appeared again. Someone from the Lou family came to handle his withdrawal from school. The playboy who had a good relationship with him revealed that Lou Gilly had an accident in an illegal racing in a foreign country. His lower body was completely paralyzed. There was no possibility of ever standing up again. After hearing this, I was only stunned for a second, then I continued to date Song Pei with peace of mind. However, a stable life always has small episodes from time to time. At the first club dinner, I was forced to drink a cross-arm drink with a senior. Jinan, are you not giving me face, senior? He slapped the table in dissatisfaction and burped. I was neither servile nor overbearing. Sorry, senior, my boyfriend won't allow it. Drink a fucking drink. Why are you being so picky? I'm not trying to sleep with you. Who are you acting all high and mighty for? The atmosphere in the private room froze. The freshmen present all secretly glanced at me with different expressions. The club president quickly covered his mouth and apologized repeatedly. Sorry, Jinan, he's drunk. Don't take it to heart. When he sobers up tomorrow, I'll ask him to apologize to you in person. The words of the several club presidents who were comforting me were mixed with warnings. Making this matter big would be bad for everyone. They asked me not to spread it around, but there were more than a dozen people in the private room at that time. There were always some people with loose lips. It still spread. Song Pei heard about it from his roommate. That evening, in the cafeteria, Song Pei and I were sitting face to face. Song Pei listlessly picked at the food on his plate and didn't take a bite. Why didn't you tell me? I couldn't tell if he was angry, and I unconsciously twisted my fingers. That senior apologized to me later, and the club teacher also punished him to write an 800-word self-criticism. It's already been resolved. If I told you, I was afraid you'd be angry with me. He slightly curved the corner of his lip. After dinner, Song Pei sent me back to the dormitory. He was very quiet all the way. I tugged at his sleeve. Don't be angry, okay, I'll tell you everything in the future. Song Pei lowered his head and gently kissed my side face. I'm not angry with you. Nan, you go back first. I'm going to an open class at the neighboring school with the instructor tonight. I didn't suspect anything. Not long after I returned to the dormitory, my roommate in the library sent me a message. She asked me to help her bring her pad. The road to the library was getting more and more secluded, so the slightest abnormal movement would be magnified countless times. A rustling sound came from behind the teaching building on my right. If I hadn't seen the familiar corner of a garment, I would probably have called the security office first. As I walked over quietly, I inappropriately recalled the disdainful look on Song Pei's face when I said he couldn't beat Lou Gilly in senior year of high school. And that time when we climbed the mountain. Now that I think about it, even Lou Gilly couldn't carry me up the mountain without any effort. I stopped. Song Pei had his back to me, and he was holding a golf club in his hand. The end of the club was stained with spots of blood. It should have come from the wound on the forehead of the boy who was curled up on the ground. This boy was the senior who had forced me to drink the cross-arm drink at that party. Song Pei squatted in front of him and patted his face with the club, still in a gentle and polite tone. Senior, there won't be a next time, understand? Can you get rid of the problem of provoking other people's girlfriends? Yes, I'll take a detour when I see Jinan in the future. I sighed. Song Pei, are you satisfied? If you are, it's time to go back with me. Two-faced puppy. The club slipped from his hand. Song Pei didn't turn around for a long time. The senior saw me and ran away quickly, as if he had seen a ghost. I stepped forward and took Song Pei's hand, speaking softly and gently. Don't keep things to yourself and think randomly. I'm not scared or angry. It took Song Pei a while to hold my hand back. Why? I thought for a while. Because your starting point is loving me. Because he loved me. He hated the senior and vented my anger. But also because he loved me, so he held back when he took action, taking into account our future. After delivering the pad to my roommate, I pulled Song Pei to a nearby bench and sat down. I wiped the blood splattered on his face with a wet wipe. But it's better not to take action in the future. When you become a very famous and powerful person in the future, these will all become your dark history. Song Pei pinched my fingertips and smiled softly. Why are you always so sure that I'll be very powerful in the future? What if I don't achieve anything and just become an ordinary little staff member after graduation? The president of the student union on the stage shouted my name loudly. then you'll be much more relaxed, you won't be so tired. Anyway, I think everything is fine, I yawned, feeling drowsy. In a daze, I scratched my cheek and mumbled my thoughts out loud. I have to save money to buy a very expensive insurance for my kidney. If it's dug out again, I should be able to get a lot of compensation. 3 years after graduating from university, on the TV, there was an interview with Song Pei about why he wanted to acquire